The deep ocean hides more than darkness and pressure. Far below the surface, vast trenches, hidden structures and strange sounds suggest a world we barely understand. From eerie lights flickering in icy waters to massive shapes moving silently through the abyss, scientists have recorded phenomena that defy explanation. Every expedition brings discoveries, but also deeper questions. Some are fleeting, captured only by sonar or submersible cameras. Others leave behind traces that challenge our understanding of nature, and perhaps hint at secrets we've yet to imagine. Dive into the ocean's depths and witness the strangest phenomena, where each discovery blurs the boundary between what we know and what we cannot explain. Disappearance of the Russian submersible AS-28, 2005. In the murky depths of the Pacific Ocean, the AS-28, a Russian mini-submersible, descended on a routine mission. On the surface, it seemed like any other dive, the kind that oceanic engineers and military experts had conducted for decades. But beneath the waves, something went terribly wrong. What was supposed to be a straightforward operation turned into a desperate race against time. The AS-28, carrying a crew of 7, became trapped 190 meters below the surface. The submersible had been investigating underwater pipelines in the Sea of Okhotsk, a region notorious for its unpredictable conditions. As the crew maneuvered deeper, they encountered a problem with the sub's communication systems. The signals suddenly went dead. What followed was confusion, panic, and an immediate search for the missing vessel. Back on the surface, families, colleagues, and officials watched anxiously as hours turned into days with no word from the crew. The Sea of Okhotsk is known for its treacherous conditions. With icy waters and unpredictable weather patterns, it presents a unique set of challenges for submersible missions. The region's strong, often shifting currents and seasonal ice flows make navigation difficult, even for the most advanced technology. These factors, combined with the deep, remote nature of the area, create an environment where even the most routine operations can quickly turn dangerous. For the AS-28, trapped at nearly 200 meters, every hour spent in the depths brought the crew closer to the cold grip of the ocean, making the rescue effort even more perilous. Rescue efforts began swiftly but were met with a daunting challenge. The AS-28 was stuck in the depths, wedged in a rocky crevice. Attempts to send down remotely operated vehicles failed to retrieve the vessel. Even more concerning was the realization that the submersible had no way of recharging its batteries or accessing the surface for air. It became a race against the clock. The cold depths of the Sea of Okhotsk would drain the air supply much faster than anyone had anticipated. The mental strain on the crew was equally severe. Although they were experienced professionals, trained to handle emergencies, the isolation and lack of communication would have been a terrifying ordeal. Encased in a metal capsule with no way to see the outside world and the constant threat of air running out, the crew's psychological resilience was tested to its limits. It's known that when trapped at such depths, time becomes distorted. Hours feel like days, and the absence of light only heightens the sense of disorientation. For the AS-28's crew, every passing moment was a reminder that survival was uncertain, and yet, they clung to hope as they waited. A breakthrough came when the Russians reached out to international experts for assistance. British rescue teams, equipped with advanced equipment, joined the mission. The hours stretched on, the pressure mounting on both the trapped crew and those trying desperately to help them. With each passing minute, the situation seemed more dire. Could they reach the submersible in time? Or was the crew doomed to spend their final moments in the depths of the ocean, trapped without hope? On the surface, engineers worked tirelessly to develop a plan. The solution came in the form of a specialized cutting tool. It was a slim hope, but it was the only one they had. As the rescue team prepared, the harsh environment threatened to thwart their efforts at every turn. Strong currents and freezing temperatures made it difficult to even locate the submersible, let alone cut through the thick cables that held it fast. Yet, there was no turning back. The rescue team faced its own set of challenges. Reaching the AS-28 was no simple feat, and the cold temperatures caused multiple technical failures. The cutting tools meant to slice through the obstructions were designed to withstand deep-sea pressures, but the freezing conditions made it difficult for the equipment to function properly. The team had to continually recalibrate their instruments, adjusting their approach to account for the unexpected complications. Even small delays in cutting through the cables and obstacles could have been catastrophic. The crew's fate depended not only on their skill but on the sheer determination to push forward, no matter the cost. After nearly 2 days of relentless effort, the cutting tool made contact with the AS-28. Slowly, painstakingly, the team began to slice through the obstacle that had trapped the sub. It was a tense wait, with each cut feeling like an eternity. And then, suddenly, the mission took a turn. The submersible's hatch opened, revealing the crew alive. The rescue was nothing short of miraculous, but the mystery didn't end there. How had the AS-28 become trapped in the first place? Theories emerged, but none could explain with certainty what had caused the incident. Some suggested equipment failure, others pointed to the unpredictable currents of the region. No matter the cause, the event shed light on just how dangerous deep-sea missions could be, especially in the unforgiving terrain of the Sea of Okhotsk. Despite the rescue, the AS-28 incident raised more questions than answers. Why had it taken so long to locate the vessel? Why were the first rescue attempts unsuccessful? The investigation that followed only deepened the mystery. While the crew was safe, their ordeal left an indelible mark on the history of deep-sea exploration. The AS-28 incident proved that even the most advanced technology could be vulnerable to the unpredictable forces of the ocean. In the aftermath of the AS-28 incident, the deep-sea exploration community made significant changes to rescue protocols. Submersible designs were re-evaluated, with new emphasis placed on ensuring that crews could safely recover from similar situations. The incident also prompted the development of more robust emergency communication systems, capable of withstanding the extreme depths of the ocean. Additionally, deeper collaboration between international rescue teams became a standard, with shared technologies and techniques improving the chances of survival in future crises. The AS-28 served as a sobering reminder that even the most advanced technology must be prepared for the challenges of the deep, and that human lives depend on every precaution being taken. To this day, the questions surrounding the AS-28's disappearance remain unanswered, leaving a chilling mystery in the heart of the deep ocean. The Pacific Unknown Object Cluster. In the vast, dark expanse of the Pacific Ocean, the abyssal plains stretch endlessly, untouched by sunlight. This part of the ocean is known for its eerie silence, broken only by the occasional groan of the Earth's tectonic plates or the rhythmic pulse of deep-sea creatures. But in 2015, something different was detected. Something that set off alarms and raised more questions than answers. Sonar images captured what appeared to be several solid objects clustered together on the ocean floor, arranged in a way that seemed almost intentional. The shapes were irregular but unmistakable, giving off an uncanny sense that they had been placed there deliberately. The initial scans were part of a routine oceanographic survey conducted by the NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, in the Pacific. The objects didn't match anything in the database of known underwater features. At first, experts assumed the images were distorted or anomalies caused by the sonar equipment. However, as further scans confirmed the same pattern, the mystery deepened. The objects were positioned with a precision that defied explanation. Geological formations don't arrange themselves like this. Neither does marine life, which typically grows in random patterns. Soon, researchers from multiple institutions were involved, trying to make sense of the findings. The most immediate question was what these objects could be. The ocean floor at this depth, over 4,000 meters below the surface, was thought to be nearly barren, devoid of large, stable structures. Yet, here was an array of shapes that couldn't easily be dismissed. Some suggested the objects might be natural formations, unusual but not impossible. Others speculated that they were human-made, possibly the remnants of a lost underwater structure, shipwreck, or military equipment. Still, the idea of objects so perfectly aligned struck many as too strange to ignore. As sonar scans continued, the objects seemed to shift in size and shape, further complicating any theory. Was it possible that they were moving? The thought was disturbing. In the wake of the initial findings, several theories emerged, each more perplexing than the last. Some suggested that the objects could be remnants of lost military technology, potentially from an experimental weapons test or a failed operation. Others entertained more speculative possibilities such as alien or extraterrestrial artifacts, given the unusual precision of their arrangement. Some even connected the objects to the Bermuda Triangle, arguing that the Pacific's strange phenomenon might be part of a larger unexplained global pattern. These theories, while intriguing, only fueled the mystery, each suggestion raising more questions than answers. The debate continued, but none of the theories could be definitively proven and no new evidence surfaced to support any of them. While some undersea features, like underwater volcanoes, can change over time, the precise alignment of these objects suggested something far more deliberate. Perhaps, the researchers speculated, they were part of an ancient undiscovered civilization, or a technological artifact from a long-lost ship or submarine. However, no evidence was found to support these ideas. No historical records, no missing vessels, no buried ruins, just the unyielding, inexplicable arrangement. On one of the deeper dives to investigate, a submersible was sent to capture more detailed footage of the objects. The descent was slow and cautious, as the pressure at such depths is immense and dangerous. As the submersible's lights flickered on the distant ocean floor, the objects came into view. Their angular shapes caught the light in strange ways, creating shadows that seemed to move and shift. Some were rectangular, others almost spherical. There appeared to be no uniformity between them, yet they were clearly grouped in a specific area. The deeper they went, the more unsettling the shapes became. It was as though they were watching, waiting to reveal their secret. As the submersible team descended deeper, they were confronted with new dangers. The pressure at these depths was crushing, and the risk of equipment failure was high. Complicating matters was the presence of shifting sediments, which could easily obscure the objects and make the task of documenting them even more difficult. The team found themselves battling against time and the elements as they pushed further into the unknown. At times, the submersible's lights flickered, momentarily plunging the crew into darkness as they navigated around jagged rocks and underwater ridges. Each movement felt deliberate, as though they were disturbing something ancient and unsettling, and the mystery of the objects only deepened the more they explored. No immediate answer came from this dive, leaving the team with even more questions. Some scientists pointed to the possibility of natural formations being altered by underwater currents. The ocean is known for its ability to sculpt the seafloor in mysterious ways. But even these hypotheses seemed insufficient to explain the peculiar arrangement of the objects. The more the research continued, the less certain everyone became. What had initially seemed like an unusual but explainable feature now felt like a true enigma. Were these objects part of a larger phenomenon? And if so, what was it? The search for answers is still ongoing, but nothing definitive has been uncovered. There have been no further discoveries of similar formations in other parts of the Pacific. The objects remain singular, their purpose and origin unknown. Some continue to speculate that they are natural features that simply haven't been properly understood yet. Others believe they may be remnants of something far more advanced, something hidden beneath the ocean for reasons we may never understand. The idea that the objects could have been placed there deliberately is still debated, with some convinced that their alignment is too precise to be a mere coincidence. The ocean's depths have always held a certain mystery, and the unknown object cluster adds another layer to that. The Pacific, so vast and unexplored, continues to surprise us with its secrets. Some mysteries, though, may be more elusive than others. With no further evidence or explanations in sight, the objects remain a riddle waiting to be solved, deep in the heart of the ocean. For now, the objects sit silently on the seafloor, their origins lost to time and the crushing pressure of the abyss. The Bermuda Triangle Abyss, unidentified deep objects. The Bermuda Triangle has always been shrouded in mystery, a vast expanse of ocean where countless ships and planes have vanished without a trace. Its reputation as a region of inexplicable disappearances is well known. Yet the Bermuda Triangle holds even deeper secrets, one that lies beneath the surface, in the abyss where the sun can't reach. Sonar scans of this area have revealed strange, enormous objects resting on the ocean floor at depths beyond the reach of most submersibles. These objects, detected by deep-sea scanning technology, have confounded experts, sparking theories and speculations about their origins. The depths of the Bermuda Triangle stretch far below the surface, into areas where light fails to penetrate. For years, the focus of most research has been on the strange disappearances of ships and aircraft. However, the discoveries made beneath the waves are no less baffling. In recent years, sonar surveys have detected objects at depths exceeding 4,000 meters, far deeper than where natural geological formations typically occur. These objects appear to be massive, with sizes and shapes that don't align with anything known to science. Their smooth, unnaturally symmetrical features seem to defy the typical random chaos of oceanic growth, leading many to ask if these are truly natural or if something else is at play. As sonar scans continued, the objects were located in what seemed to be a specific pattern, spread over a large, deep area of the Bermuda Triangle's abyss. What caught the attention of researchers was their highly regular arrangement. Natural formations, like underwater mountains or trenches, typically do not appear with this kind of organisation. The precision of their alignment has led many to believe that they could be part of an artificial structure. But if that's the case, who or what could have built them? The answers remain elusive. One of the first hypotheses put forward was that these objects were remnants of a lost ancient civilization, one that had once inhabited the ocean's depths long before humans ventured into these waters. The idea of an underwater city or structure isn't entirely far-fetched. The deep ocean has always been a place of mystery, with new species and features continually being discovered. Yet the thought that an ancient society could have built massive structures in such an inhospitable environment raises more questions than it answers. If such a civilization existed, how did it disappear? And what could have driven it to such extreme depths? Another theory suggested that the objects might be man-made, possibly part of a shipwreck, or a military experiment gone awry. The Bermuda Triangle has long been associated with tales of mysterious aircraft disappearances, especially during the mid-20th century. Could these underwater objects be remnants of one of these vanished planes or ships? Or perhaps they were part of a covert operation, submerged intentionally and lost to history. However, there is no evidence linking these objects to any known wrecks or military activities. No ships or planes have been definitively traced to this region at these depths, leaving the object's origin open to debate. In 2017, an international research team set out to investigate the underwater anomalies, sending down unmanned submersibles equipped with high-definition cameras. The mission was risky given the extreme depths involved, but it was the only way to capture more detailed images of these mysterious formations. When the submersibles reached the ocean floor and began transmitting footage, the images were both fascinating and unsettling. The objects appeared far larger than had been anticipated, some as big as small buildings, with edges too sharp and smooth to be natural rock formations. But with no visual indication of what they truly were, the footage only added to the growing enigma. Interest in the Bermuda Triangle's underwater mysteries has only intensified, attracting not only scientists but also conspiracy theorists, who suggest that the region may hide answers to questions about Earth's past, or even encounters with extraterrestrial forces. Some even believe that the objects could be linked to an unknown civilization, possibly one that has evaded detection for centuries. One of the most curious features observed was the lack of any sign of decay or biological life surrounding the objects. On the ocean floor, natural features like rocks or wrecks typically accumulate debris over time, seaweed, algae, or the remains of marine creatures. But these objects, despite their apparent age, appeared almost pristine. This raised further questions about their origins. Could they have been placed there recently, or had they been preserved by some unknown force at the bottom of the ocean? The absence of marine life in the immediate area suggested that the objects had been untouched for a long time, if not longer than humans have been exploring these depths. Despite these advances in technology and exploration, there's still no definitive explanation for the mysterious objects lying beneath the Bermuda Triangle. Some marine biologists suggest that the region is simply too deep and too isolated for us to fully understand. The harsh conditions of the ocean floor, extreme pressure, freezing temperatures and lack of light could preserve unusual phenomena in ways we don't yet comprehend. Other experts argue that these objects could be part of natural underwater features distorted by time, tectonic activity, or seismic events. But every new scan, every new image captured, raises more questions about what lies hidden in the abyss. No further expeditions have been launched since the initial dives, leaving the Bermuda Triangle's underwater objects untouched for the time being. Their strange and unnerving presence beneath the ocean continues to fascinate those who study the mysteries of the deep. Whether they are the remnants of something ancient lost to time or a piece of something more modern that we cannot yet understand, the objects remain silent, enigmatic markers in the vastness of the ocean floor. The Bermuda Triangle remains an abyssal enigma, where the ocean conceals its most unsettling secrets, and the objects at its depths lie in eerie silence, waiting to reveal nothing at all. Puerto Rico Trench, unknown, sonar returns. The Puerto Rico Trench is one of the deepest and most mysterious areas in the Atlantic Ocean, lying just north of the island of Puerto Rico. Its dark, immense depths are hidden from the world, stretching more than 8,000 meters below the surface in places. For decades, this region has remained largely unexplored, with few expeditions daring to venture into the crushing depths. What lies beneath the surface has been a subject of speculation and intrigue, but it was only in the early 21st century that a series of sonar returns revealed something unexpected: unidentified objects deep in the trench, marking the beginning of a new mystery. The sonar scans, conducted in 2013 as part of an international mapping project, were intended to document the ocean floor's geography and topography. Yet, during routine scans, the equipment picked up strange, large formations in areas where no known geological features were expected. The shapes were unlike anything that had been charted before, making it impossible for the experts involved to explain them away as common seafloor formations. The sonar readings, which could typically detect natural rock formations or submerged mountains, returned images of solid objects, positioned in ways that seemed deliberate, as if placed there rather than naturally occurring. What made these findings even more perplexing was their location. The objects were found at an extreme depth, far beyond where most human exploration had reached. The trench, one of the most challenging places on Earth to study, is located in an area where natural conditions are harsh and unforgiving. The pressure at these depths is more than 800 times that of the surface, and temperatures are close to freezing. Even the most advanced submersibles struggle to survive such conditions for long periods. Despite these challenges, the sonar returns indicated the presence of large, unnatural structures that seem to sit at the very bottom of this abyssal zone. The first analysis of the sonar data pointed to the possibility that the objects could be massive, man-made structures. While some researchers speculated that they might be part of a shipwreck or remnants of military testing, others were more cautious, acknowledging that there was no historical record of any such activity in the trench. It was also puzzling that no other signs of human activity, like debris or artifacts, had been found nearby. This led some to consider the possibility of something far older, or more unusual, being the source of the anomalies. The objects could have been there for millennia, lost to time and covered by the relentless pressure of the ocean floor. As the mystery deepened, experts began to form various theories about the nature of the objects. Could they be relics of an ancient civilization, long forgotten by history? The idea of an underwater society that existed thousands of years ago, whose structures had withstood the test of time and pressure, seemed far-fetched but intriguing. Ancient civilizations did, after all, leave behind remarkable remnants in unlikely places. Yet, no evidence had been found in the surrounding area to support such a hypothesis. There were no ruins, no remnants of any kind of city or infrastructure that would suggest an ancient culture had ever thrived in this part of the ocean. Others proposed that the objects might be linked to some form of extraterrestrial technology. The unusual shapes and symmetry of the sonar returns, coupled with their location in such a remote, deep region of the ocean, led some to believe that the objects could be evidence of something not of this world. Such ideas, though often dismissed by the scientific community, fueled much speculation and media attention. While no evidence of alien involvement was found, the concept of alien artifacts buried in the depths of the Earth's oceans sparked the imagination of both scientists and the general public. In 2015, a follow-up mission was launched to investigate the strange sonar returns. This time, an unmanned submersible was deployed to get a closer look at the objects. The submersible, equipped with high-resolution cameras, descended slowly into the trench, its lights piercing the suffocating darkness of the deep. As it approached the objects, the images transmitted back to the surface showed a series of large angular shapes, too symmetrical to be natural rock formations. The structures appeared to be massive, some over 50 meters long, their surfaces smooth and reflective. Despite the clarity of the images, however, the exact nature of the objects remained unclear. The team was unable to retrieve any physical samples or examine them closely, due to the extreme depth and the limitations of their equipment. Theories about the origin of these objects continued to evolve as more data were collected. Some scientists believed that the objects could be geological formations that were previously undetected, but the regularity of their shapes made this theory hard to support. Others speculated that the objects could be remnants of an old military operation, possibly from the Cold War era, though no known military exercises had ever been recorded in the Puerto Rico Trench. The area, remote and nearly inaccessible, was not a typical site for naval activity. The mystery remained unsolved, and as more sonar scans were conducted, the objects seemed to grow larger and more complex, fueling speculation that this was no ordinary geological anomaly. Even with technological progress and numerous efforts to study the area, the objects in the Puerto Rico Trench still elude explanation. New sonar data continues to reveal more unusual formations, some of which appear to shift and change over time, further complicating the investigation. While some researchers have claimed that these findings are simply a result of faulty equipment or misinterpretations of the data, the sheer number of scans that have produced similar results suggests that something unusual lies at the bottom of the trench. As of today, no conclusive evidence has been found to explain the origins of these objects, leaving the Puerto Rico Trench as one of the ocean's most unexplained and haunting mysteries. The mystery of the objects in the Puerto Rico Trench continues to linger, with scientists and explorers alike wondering whether they will ever uncover the truth behind these enigmatic formations. The Giant Squid off New Zealand, 2013. The ocean is a place of wonder, where the unknown lurks in the depths. One of its most mysterious inhabitants is the giant squid, a creature so elusive that until recently, very little was known about it. For centuries, sailors spoke of giant tentacles and massive creatures lurking beneath the waves, but it wasn't until 2013 that the world finally caught a glimpse of one of these monsters in their natural habitat. Off the coast of New Zealand, in the depths of the Pacific Ocean, a team of scientists made history by filming a live giant squid, a discovery that captivated the world and left many more questions than answers. New Zealand, with its rich marine life and pristine waters, has always been a focal point for oceanographic research. The deep waters off its coast are home to a diverse range of species, many of which have yet to be fully explored. However, the giant squid has remained one of the most elusive creatures of all. This massive cephalopod, capable of growing up to 12 meters long, has long been the subject of myths and speculation. In 2013, a team of researchers from Japan, led by marine biologist Tsunemi Kubodera, set out to solve the mystery of this enigmatic creature. Armed with the latest technology, they hope to finally capture footage of the giant squid in its natural environment. The team used specially designed deep-sea cameras to capture footage at depths of over 600 meters. The first few attempts were unsuccessful, with the squid remaining elusive despite the high-tech equipment. However, in the early hours of one particular dive, something extraordinary happened. The researchers' cameras caught a glimpse of movement in the dark waters, and there, in the cold black depths, was the creature they had been searching for. A giant squid, its enormous eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of the submersible's cameras. The giant squid's appearance was nothing short of awe-inspiring. Its long, coiling tentacles seemed to reach toward the camera, while its body moved with an eerie, fluid grace. The researchers watched in disbelief as the squid swam closer, revealing its full size. The squid's body, pale and somewhat translucent, seemed almost ghostly as it floated through the water. Its massive eyes, some of the largest in the animal kingdom, shone like lanterns, scanning the environment around it. For the first time in history, humanity had an opportunity to observe this elusive creature up close, in its natural habitat. For years, scientists had speculated about the giant squid's behavior, its feeding habits, and its mysterious life deep beneath the surface. What the team observed in 2013 raised even more questions. The squid appeared to be moving through the water with a slow, deliberate pace, using its arms and tentacles to navigate the depths. Its large eyes, adapted to the pitch-black environment, were perfectly suited for its habitat. The footage captured not only the squid's movements, but also its remarkable ability to change its body colour and texture in response to its surroundings, a feature that made the creature even more otherworldly. The giant squid's diet and hunting methods remain largely unknown, as it has rarely been observed in the wild. However, the footage taken by the research team revealed an unexpected detail. The squid was not alone. During the dive, a deep-sea predator, a sperm whale, was also observed nearby. The squid's tentacles were seen darting toward the whale, possibly in an attempt to defend itself. The sight of this interaction further piqued the curiosity of the scientists, as it confirmed that the giant squid is a potential prey item for sperm whales, who are known to hunt deep-sea creatures. It was a stunning moment of clarity in a world that had long been full of speculation. The team's discovery of the giant squid was a monumental achievement, but it also raised new questions about the creature's behaviour and its role in the deep-sea ecosystem. While some believed that the squid might be a solitary hunter, others began to consider the possibility of it being part of a larger, unseen network of life in the ocean's depths. The fact that a predator like the sperm whale was so closely linked to the squid's existence made scientists wonder what other creatures of the deep might share the same habitat. The giant squid, it seemed, was not the only mystery lurking in the darkness. In the years since that groundbreaking footage, researchers have continued to explore the depths of the Pacific Ocean, hoping to uncover more about the giant squid and its secretive world. However, despite advances in technology and more targeted expeditions, sightings of the giant squid have remained incredibly rare. The 2013 discovery was a turning point in our understanding of deep-sea life, but it also underscored just how little we truly know about the creatures that inhabit the vast, unexplored reaches of the ocean. The giant squid, though now somewhat less mysterious, continues to evade our understanding, a creature of the deep that seems to exist beyond the grasp of human knowledge. The giant squid's existence is a reminder of the vastness of the ocean and the many secrets it holds. While we have made significant strides in exploring its depths, much of it remains beyond our reach. The footage of the squid in 2013 may have answered some questions, but it also raised new ones. What other creatures are out there, waiting to be discovered, and what other mysteries lie hidden in the inky blackness of the ocean? For now, the giant squid remains one of the ocean's most elusive and captivating residents, a symbol of the many wonders that still await us beneath the surface. The footage from New Zealand offered the world a rare glimpse into the hidden world of the giant squid, but the mystery of this creature and the deep ocean itself endures. The Mariana Trench footprint. In the deepest parts of the ocean, where the light of the sun never reaches and the pressure is unbearable, the Mariana Trench stands as the most profound abyss on Earth. Stretching nearly 11,000 meters below the surface, it is a place that has long been a subject of intrigue and mystery. But in 2016, a discovery was made that would add another layer of enigma to this already haunting location. During a routine exploration, a robotic submersible captured images of what appeared to be a large, distinct footprint etched into the ocean floor, sparking debates about what could have caused such a formation in one of the most remote and hostile environments on the planet. A team of oceanographers researching the ecological state of the trench made the discovery. The researchers had been focused on documenting marine life in the area, using sonar and high-definition cameras to explore the seafloor. When the submersible's cameras transmitted back images, one frame stood out among the rest, an oddly shaped, perfectly defined mark in the sediment, resembling a footprint. It was unlike anything seen before at such extreme depths. The first instinct of the researchers was to dismiss it as a trick of the terrain, perhaps caused by natural movements of the ocean floor or shifting currents. But further analysis of the image revealed a startling detail. The edges of the formation were too regular to be the result of random geological activity. At first, the scientists speculated that the footprint could be the result of an underwater landslide or some form of tectonic shift. The trench is located along a complex boundary of tectonic plates, and geological events such as these are not uncommon. However, the precision of the footprint's shape and the absence of any nearby disturbance made this explanation seem less likely. The footprint appeared to be far too deliberate in design, as if something had intentionally pressed down into the seafloor, leaving an impression. But what could have caused it? And how could such a mark survive in a place where the ocean floor is constantly shifting and rearranging? The idea of a creature or organism being responsible for the footprint was also considered. The trench is home to strange and barely understood life forms, some of which have evolved to survive under conditions that are completely alien to us. But no known species, from the giant squid to deep-sea fish, had ever been documented making such an impression on the ocean floor. The notion that a biological entity could leave behind such a precise shape seemed out of the question. Furthermore, any living creature capable of creating such a formation would likely have had to have enormous size and strength, far beyond the capabilities of any known deep-sea species. As the debate raged, new theories emerged, some more far-fetched than others. One theory proposed that the footprint could be the result of an ancient event, perhaps a massive creature that once roamed the trench but had long since vanished. Could the footprint be a relic of an extinct species, one that had left its mark on the seafloor and remained untouched for centuries? Another theory suggested that it might be the result of some unknown geological process, something that science had yet to understand. The trench is known for its unique and extreme conditions, and it's possible that natural forces we still do not fully comprehend could have caused the footprint's creation. The formation was not just limited to a single footprint. A subsequent investigation revealed several similar marks scattered across the trench floor, though they were smaller and less distinct than the first. Some were nearly circular, while others were more elongated, but they all shared the same sharp, defined edges. The fact that there were multiple prints in the area raised even more questions about their origin. If this were a natural phenomenon, it seemed almost impossible that such a pattern could occur repeatedly in such a consistent manner. The oceanographers involved in the study were baffled. While it was clear that something extraordinary had occurred, no one could agree on what it was. In 2018, a second expedition was launched to further investigate the footprint and the surrounding area. With more advanced equipment and a better understanding of the trench's dynamics, the team hoped to uncover more clues. This time, a remotely operated vehicle was sent down to the seafloor with a specialized drill and sonar system, hoping to capture a clearer image of the footprint and perhaps take physical samples. As the submersible moved closer to the footprint, the team held their breath in anticipation. The images that returned, however, were frustratingly inconclusive. While the footprint was still visible, it was surrounded by a thick layer of silt which made further analysis difficult. While the mission in 2018 didn't solve the puzzle, it did offer some significant revelations. The area surrounding the footprint showed signs of unique geological activity. Some of the surrounding sediment appeared to be displaced, as though a heavy force had pushed into the ground at some point in the past. Yet no signs of active seismic movement or other natural processes could explain the mark in any satisfactory way. It remained as much of a mystery as it had been in 2016. The discovery of the footprint in the Mariana Trench has left a deep mark on the field of ocean exploration. Despite the incredible technological advances that have made it possible to explore the deepest parts of the ocean, the trench continues to reveal new mysteries that defy explanation. The footprint has become a symbol of the ocean's vastness and its ability to keep secrets hidden from the world above. While theories continue to circulate, the truth about its origin may never be known. The Mariana Trench remains one of the last truly unexplored places on Earth, and with every discovery, it only deepens its hold on our imagination. The footprint is just one of many unanswered questions in the abyss, a reminder that beneath the surface the ocean still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. The Frozen Lake of the Arctic Ocean, 2015. The Arctic Ocean, with its icy expanse and extreme conditions, has long been a place of mystery. Its waters, colder than most places on Earth, remain largely uncharted, and the region is known for its shifting ice flows and harsh weather. In 2015, an expedition to the Arctic led to an unexpected discovery that would challenge everything scientists thought they knew about the area. A team of researchers conducting a routine survey of the ocean floor stumbled upon a bizarre and seemingly out-of-place feature: a flat, perfectly smooth surface deep beneath the ice, resembling the surface of a lake. Yet, it was frozen in a place where no lake should exist. Using remote sensing equipment to map the seafloor near the Arctic's central basin, the team stumbled upon the discovery. The equipment was designed to help scientists study the geological features of the region, but what it found was nothing like what they expected. At first, the signals appeared to show a flat, level surface, which puzzled the researchers. It was an unusual find, considering that the seafloor of the Arctic is known for being uneven and irregular, shaped by glaciers and ice movements over millennia. The surface that appeared on the sonar was far too smooth to fit this typical pattern. The researchers were initially skeptical. They questioned whether the readings could have been caused by some kind of equipment malfunction. However, As they ran additional scans, the data began to corroborate the original findings. There, deep beneath the ice, was a vast flat expanse, frozen solid like a lake, yet its location was baffling. No known geological formations, such as a shallow basin or an ice shelf, could account for such a formation. The more the team studied the data, the more they were drawn to the idea that what they had found wasn't just an anomaly, it was something extraordinary. The group decided to send a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, down to investigate. As the vehicle descended into the icy waters, the footage that came back to the surface was nothing short of startling. The lake, as it was now being called, was more than just a smooth surface. It was covered in a thick layer of what appeared to be a solid substance, something resembling ice, but unlike any natural ice formation previously recorded. The surface appeared unnaturally smooth, as though it had been frozen in place by an unknown force. The ROV's cameras picked up no signs of movement or currents, as would be expected in such a remote and harsh environment. The first question the researchers had was how such a lake could exist in a place where no known freshwater source should be. The Arctic is an ocean, and while it is covered by a layer of ice, that ice is typically not thick enough to form a frozen lake-like surface beneath the ocean's depths. This baffling discovery seemed to defy natural laws. As the scientists pondered the implications, they began to wonder, could this lake be the result of some unknown process beneath the ice, one that had gone unnoticed by previous explorers? Some suggested that the lake could be a result of geothermal activity beneath the seafloor. The Arctic region is known to have pockets of thermal activity, including underwater volcanoes and hydrothermal vents. However, there was no indication of any significant heat source near the formation. The temperature in the area was far too cold for geothermal heat to be the sole explanation. This led some to speculate that the formation could be linked to a unique and never-before-seen environmental condition, a process that had never been observed in other parts of the ocean. Adding to the mystery was the substance covering the surface of the lake. While it appeared to be ice, it was far denser and more resilient than any ice the team had encountered before. Some researchers theorized that the material might be a unique type of frozen methane or another compound, possibly created by some sort of chemical reaction occurring deep below the seafloor. Others proposed that it could be a form of cryogenic material, frozen into place by extreme pressures and cold. Whatever it was, the formation defied expectations and suggested the possibility of processes at work in the Arctic that were entirely unknown. As the research continued, the team realized that they were dealing with something completely unexpected. The frozen lake was not just a scientific oddity, it was a sign that many more secrets were lying beneath the ice waiting to be uncovered. With the discovery gaining attention, further expeditions were planned to return to the site and conduct more detailed studies. Scientists from around the world were eager to learn more about this mysterious feature, hoping to understand not just how it was formed, but what it could tell us about the forces at play beneath the surface of the Arctic Ocean. The excitement around the discovery was palpable, yet the frozen lake remained a mystery. As additional research was conducted, no definitive answers emerged. Some hypothesized that the formation could be the result of a long-forgotten glacial event, one that had frozen in place a portion of the Arctic that had been hidden from view for millennia. However, this theory was met with skepticism, as no evidence of such an event had been found in the surrounding areas. Others believed that the formation could be a clue to understanding the complex relationship between the Arctic's ocean currents, ice flows, and geothermal activity. The Arctic's ice-covered waters are some of the most inhospitable on Earth, and the difficulty of conducting research in the region has always limited our understanding of its mysteries. Yet the discovery of the frozen lake highlighted the fact that the Arctic Ocean still holds many secrets, some that may be beyond our current grasp. The phenomenon, whatever its true cause, was a reminder that there is still so much to learn about the world's most extreme environments. As scientists continue to study the frozen lake, the mystery of its origin remains unsolved. It stands as a testament to the vastness of our planet's unexplored regions, where nature continues to surprise and confound even the most seasoned researchers. What lies beneath the ice? And what other hidden wonders might be waiting to be discovered in the frozen depths of the Arctic? The answers are yet to be revealed. The frozen lake is an enigma, a reminder of how little we truly know about the forces that shape our planet. Pacific Deep Sea Phantom Glow. Far beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean, where light can barely penetrate, some phenomena challenge explanation. Among them, a mysterious glow captured by submersibles has left scientists puzzled. This phantom glow has been seen many times during deep-sea expeditions, and yet no one can fully understand its origin. It isn't the familiar bioluminescence emitted by creatures like jellyfish or certain types of fish, nor is it linked to any known underwater volcanic activity. What's even more unsettling is the way this glow seems to move and shift, appearing in different shapes, sometimes flickering, as if it has a life of its own. The first recorded instance of this glow occurred in the late 1990s during an oceanographic expedition led by the Ocean Exploration Trust. Researchers aboard the research vessel Nautilus were using high-tech sonar systems to map the ocean floor when the glow appeared on their screens. At first, they thought it was an issue with the equipment, perhaps some sort of interference or malfunction. But when they sent a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, to investigate the area, the glow became even more evident. The ROV's cameras captured eerie blue-green light emanating from an area around 2,000 meters beneath the surface. As the submersible moved closer to the source of the glow, the researchers noticed something strange. The light didn't behave like typical bioluminescence. Unlike the steady glow of certain organisms, this light seemed to shift, growing brighter and dimmer in patterns that appeared far too deliberate to be random. It was as if the light had its own rhythm, pulsing in sync with the movement of the submersible, and it wasn't coming from any identifiable creature or geological feature. The ROV's cameras recorded no creatures in the vicinity that could explain the strange display. What made it even more perplexing was that the light seemed to be coming from the surrounding water itself, as if the ocean was producing it in a way that no one had ever seen before. For years, the phenomenon baffled scientists. Some initially speculated that it could be caused by bioluminescent bacteria or plankton. These organisms are known to produce light in response to disturbances in the water, and they're often responsible for the sparkling glowing waters seen in shallow seas. However, further investigations revealed that the phantom glow was different in nature. It wasn't tied to any movement in the water or any known biological source. It was far deeper than the zones where bioluminescent organisms are usually found, and it didn't follow the typical patterns of oceanic light shows. Over the following years, a number of expeditions were launched to revisit the area where the glow had been first spotted. During one of these missions in 2005, a team led by marine scientists from the University of Hawaii's School of Ocean and Earth Science and Technology, SOEST, returned to the same region of the Pacific. This time, they equipped their ROV with more advanced sensors, hoping to finally capture data that could explain the mysterious glow. As they descended to the depths, the glow reappeared, stronger than ever. However, the sensors found nothing that could explain its source. The water in the area was relatively clear, and the temperature and salinity were consistent with normal deep-sea conditions. Nothing about the environment seemed to be out of the ordinary. One possible explanation that has been suggested is that the glow might be caused by unusual chemical reactions occurring deep below the surface. Some scientists have theorized that it could be the result of a process known as triboluminescence, a phenomenon where light is produced when certain materials are crushed or stressed. However, there was no clear evidence to support this theory, and the specific materials that would need to be present in such depths were still unknown. If triboluminescence were at work, it would be a completely new and unexpected process in the deep ocean. The more the scientists studied the phenomenon, the more complex it became. In 2010, another team led by the Schmidt Ocean Institute conducted a series of dives in the same region. As the submersible descended to depths of more than 3,000 meters, the glow appeared again. This time, the researchers managed to capture footage of the surrounding environment. There were no visible sources of the light, but the glow seemed to spread outwards in an almost deliberate pattern, as if it were being directed by some unknown force. The light formed faint undulating lines, similar to the ripples seen when a stone is thrown into a still pond. But what was causing these lines of light remained a mystery. The theories continued to multiply. Some experts suggested that the glow could be linked to electrical currents in the ocean, possibly from tectonic activity deep within the Earth's crust. The Pacific Ocean is known for its seismic activity, particularly around the so-called Ring of Fire. Could the glow be the result of some sort of electrical discharge from the Earth's core, perhaps triggered by shifting tectonic plates? This theory, while intriguing, has yet to be proven, as no clear evidence of such electrical discharges has been detected in the area. Another possibility is that the glow could be a phenomenon linked to the ocean's microbiome. The deep-sea environment is home to unique and little understood bacteria, many of which thrive in extreme conditions. Some of these microorganisms are capable of producing light under certain conditions, and it's possible that the glow is the result of a chemical interaction between these organisms and the surrounding environment. Yet, despite extensive studies, no conclusive link has been found between any known bacteria and the ghostly light. The phantom glow in the Pacific remains an enduring mystery of the deep sea, despite years of investigation. The phenomenon has been seen in various regions of the Pacific, but the exact areas where it appears seem to shift. It is as if the glow moves across the ocean, appearing and disappearing without warning. Each time it is spotted, it raises more questions than answers, challenging our understanding of the ocean and the forces at work within it. What is this strange light, and why does it continue to elude explanation? As technology improves and more deep-sea missions are launched, it is possible that the Pacific phantom glow will eventually be understood. But for now, it stands as a reminder of how little we know about the vast, mysterious depths of our oceans, where strange and inexplicable phenomena still await discovery. Each expedition to uncover its source only deepens the mystery, leaving researchers with more questions than before. Perhaps in time we will uncover the secret behind the glowing shadows of the deep. But for now, the phantom glow remains one of the ocean's most tantalizing puzzles. The Azores deep sea lights. Off the coast of the Azores, in the deep, silent expanse of the North Atlantic, reports have surfaced of strange glowing orbs. These lights, often described as bright, glowing orbs, have puzzled researchers since they were first observed by fishermen and local sailors in the early 1990s. The sightings were sporadic, and at first they were dismissed as misidentified fishing equipment or distant ships. But as the reports grew in frequency and consistency, the scientific community began to take notice. No one could quite explain what caused these mysterious lights, and they continued to flicker in the ocean depths, well beyond the reach of the human eye. The Azores themselves are located on a major tectonic plate boundary, an area known for its geological activity. With volcanic islands, geothermal springs and underwater fault lines, the region has always been a hub for unusual phenomena. Yet, despite the natural activity in the area, no clear link could be found between these lights and any known geological or biological processes. The deep-sea lights seem to defy explanation. Local fishermen told tales of seeing bright glowing orbs in the water late at night, sometimes moving in tandem, sometimes independently. The lights were often reported near the deep-sea trenches around the islands, an area not often explored by scientists. The first substantial evidence of the lights came in 2005, when a research team from the University of the Azores launched an underwater expedition using a remotely operated vehicle, ROV. The vehicle was equipped with high-definition cameras and lights capable of capturing the ocean's depths in greater detail than ever before. As the team descended into the abyssal plains, they began to see something that had never been recorded before. Lights flickering in the distance. Initially, the lights seemed to be moving in patterns, almost as though they were deliberately arranged. They appeared to be concentrated in certain regions, almost as if there was some sort of coordinated event occurring deep below the surface. The team's excitement was palpable, but they were also cautious. They knew that they had to rule out every possible natural or man-made explanation before jumping to conclusions. Researchers speculated that the lights could be bioluminescent organisms, a well-documented phenomenon in the deep sea. There are numerous species of fish, jellyfish, and other marine creatures that produce their own light, a trait known as bioluminescence. However, the pattern and intensity of the lights observed off the Azores didn't match the behaviour of any known organisms. The flashes were too bright, too large, and appeared to be coming from places where no such creatures were known to inhabit. Despite this, some scientists proposed that the lights might be the result of bioluminescent plankton being disturbed by some external force, though no clear evidence for this theory has emerged. As the investigation into the lights continued, a new theory began to gain traction. Could these lights be a result of underwater electrical activity? Deep-sea researchers know that the ocean is full of electromagnetic fields created by the movement of tectonic plates, ocean currents, and volcanic activity. These electromagnetic fields can sometimes interact with particles in the water, creating flashes of light. It was suggested that the lights off the Azores could be a manifestation of such electrical phenomena. While this idea was plausible, it didn't fully explain the specific patterns of the lights or their apparent motion. The situation became even more perplexing in 2007 when a research vessel from the NOAA, conducting a routine survey of the region, picked up strange readings on its sonar equipment. The sonar detected what seemed to be large, unidentified structures near the bottom of the ocean, and their unusual alignment suggested they were not naturally occurring formations. The lights, it seemed, were somehow linked to these mysterious structures. But what were they? Were they the result of some kind of ancient or undiscovered underwater construction? Theories about lost civilizations or alien activity briefly entered the conversation, but they were quickly dismissed by most scientists in favour of more grounded hypotheses. By 2010, a second ROV mission was launched to further investigate the lights and the objects they seemed to be linked to. This time, the team deployed an advanced sonar system capable of creating detailed 3D images of the seafloor. When the ROV reached the site where the lights had been spotted, the team was stunned to find what appeared to be unusual, symmetrical shapes on the ocean floor. These shapes didn't match the irregular contours of natural underwater formations, and they didn't resemble anything that could be easily explained by the geological activity in the area. The team was left with more questions than answers. Were these shapes natural or artificial? And if they were artificial, who or what created them? After years of research and the use of cutting-edge equipment, the cause of the Azores deep-sea lights continues to elude explanation. In recent years, the lights have been seen less frequently, and their sightings have become more sporadic. Some believe the lights were a result of a natural phenomenon, such as an undiscovered species or an unusual underwater chemical reaction. Others remain convinced that the lights are something more, possibly linked to the mysterious structures on the seafloor. Still, the lack of conclusive evidence has left the mystery wide open. As more research continues in the region, scientists remain cautious, knowing that the deep sea is a place of great unpredictability. The Azores remain an area of scientific interest, with many more questions than answers. New technologies may one day provide a clearer understanding of what lies beneath the surface, but for now, the deep-sea lights remain a captivating enigma, shining brightly in the darkness, waiting to be understood. The lights still shine in the Atlantic's depths, but their true meaning is a riddle that the ocean keeps locked away. The Caribbean Mysterious Abyssal Trench. Below the serene surface of the Caribbean lies the mysterious Abyssal Trench, an unexplored region that continues to captivate scientists and marine explorers alike. It is a place that has intrigued scientists and marine explorers for decades, yet remains shrouded in mystery. Despite the region's popularity for tourism and marine research, this particular trench has remained mostly off the radar of major expeditions. Deep-sea exploration in the area has often been limited to surface-level surveys or the occasional submersible dive, leaving the trench's exact dimensions and features unknown. What is clear, however, is that the trench holds secrets that have yet to be discovered. The trench itself is situated off the coast of Puerto Rico, within the Puerto Rico Trench, one of the deepest regions in the Atlantic Ocean. The trench cuts through the sea floor, plummeting thousands of meters down into a pitch-black world where pressure, temperature, and darkness combine to create an environment unlike any other. It was during a routine sonar scan in 2008 that researchers first detected the unusual formations that lay hidden in the trench's depths. These sonar returns were unlike anything seen before. The structures they identified seemed to form a repeating, almost geometric pattern, raising suspicions of something man-made, or at least engineered by nature in a way that was still unexplained. The mystery surrounding the Abyssal Trench deepened when more scans revealed even more anomalies. The objects within the trench appeared to be arranged in an orderly fashion, as if purposefully positioned. Some of these objects had sharp, distinct edges, while others resembled elongated, cylindrical forms. There was no explanation for their arrangement. Natural formations in the deep ocean, such as underwater volcanoes or shifting tectonic plates, usually have irregular shapes. The precision of the trench's features didn't fit any known geological models, leaving researchers with more questions than answers. Given the trench's extreme depth, it was difficult to send human divers to explore the area. Instead, teams turned to remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, and deep-sea cameras. These vehicles were able to navigate down to the trench's depths, though they still faced immense challenges from the crushing pressure and near-freezing temperatures. In 2010, an international team led by the University of Puerto Rico launched an ambitious expedition to investigate the trench. Equipped with high-tech submersibles and state-of-the-art sonar systems, the team was determined to uncover the source of the mysterious objects detected in earlier scans. The submersible's cameras recorded footage of dark, shadowy structures, but as the team got closer, the footage became increasingly distorted, and the objects seemed to fade into the shadows of the trench. After several dives, the researchers encountered even stranger phenomena. Unusual currents in the trench made navigation difficult, as the submersibles struggled to maintain their course. The currents appeared to behave unpredictably, moving in tight spirals before disappearing into the abyss. To some on the team, the behaviour of the currents suggested some kind of unknown activity in the trench. Could the objects themselves be influencing the water flow, or was something larger hidden further below controlling the movements of the water? These baffling currents prompted a novel theory. The trench might contain an undiscovered geological structure, one that had not been revealed by standard sonar scans. Some scientists speculated that the trench might have an active volcanic component, which could explain the unusual behaviour of the currents. If there were underwater volcanoes in the trench, they could generate strange currents and create seismic activity, which in turn might explain the erratic patterns seen in the region. However, when the team analysed the trench's seismic data, they found no significant volcanic activity, raising more doubts about the validity of this theory. In 2013, a new piece of the puzzle emerged when a team from the Ocean Exploration Trust revisited the trench using advanced sonar and sonar mapping technology. This time, they detected even more distinct formations at the bottom of the trench, which seemed to be massive angular shapes that were aligned in rows. Their appearance was unlike any natural formation previously encountered at these depths. Unlike the more common boulder fields or underwater ridges, these formations seemed to form an organised pattern. In certain spots, the objects looked almost like the remains of an ancient city, with large, flat surfaces and what appeared to be straight walls. But if these were indeed man-made, how did they end up in such a remote part of the ocean? The new findings sparked a resurgence of speculation. Some wondered if the trench could be home to the remains of a long-lost civilization, possibly a group of ancient seafarers who had once sailed across the Caribbean thousands of years ago. Yet, no known historical records or evidence supported the existence of such a society in this area. Others considered the possibility that the formations were part of a large-scale underwater geological event, but the sheer consistency of the shapes defied conventional scientific explanation. The trench had become a place where the line between natural and artificial seemed to blur, leaving scientists struggling to make sense of what lay hidden in its depths. A year later, in 2014, a research team from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, returned to the trench for another round of investigation. This time, the team was able to bring along a deep-sea rover that could withstand the trench's extreme conditions. The rover's cameras captured footage of the enigmatic structures in greater detail. Some of the formations appeared to glow faintly, though the exact source of the light remained unclear. The team also noticed several strange bioluminescent organisms that seemed to congregate around the mysterious objects, further adding to the sense of intrigue surrounding the trench. The true nature of the mysterious Abyssal Trench, despite years of research and technological advances, remains unresolved. The objects within it are still largely unexplained, and the region itself remains one of the most difficult places to study in the world. While some theorists believe the trench may be the site of an undiscovered natural phenomenon, others continue to speculate about the possibility of an ancient civilization hidden deep beneath the waves. For now, the trench remains a place where science and speculation coexist, each waiting for the other to uncover the truth. In the heart of the Caribbean, the trench continues to guard its secrets, its deep waters refusing to yield answers. The Indian Ocean's Sunken Metal Structure, 2016. In the unexplored depths of the Indian Ocean, something strange was uncovered in 2016, a discovery that continues to mystify researchers. A team of marine geologists, while surveying the ocean floor, encountered an anomaly that was unlike anything they had seen before. It was not an underwater mountain nor an ancient shipwreck. What they found appeared to be a massive, perfectly formed structure, something metallic, something geometric, and something that had no clear place on the ocean's seafloor. The coordinates led them to an area approximately 1,000 kilometres off the coast of Western Australia, an area known for its deep trenches and unexplored marine habitats. It was an area with little previous human exploration, leaving this discovery even more significant. The sonar image that first alerted the team was striking. It showed a rectangular shape buried in the seabed, measuring nearly 90 metres long. The metal object appeared to be several layers deep, partly covered in sediment. Its edges were unnaturally straight, unlike anything one would expect to find in the natural world. Some members of the research team, accustomed to mapping shipwrecks and underwater geological formations, were immediately intrigued. Others, however, were skeptical, wondering if the anomaly was merely an artifact of the sonar technology itself. After all, the ocean floor is a strange place, full of odd shapes formed by geological processes, so the idea that something so precise could be created by natural forces seemed improbable. With the discovery of the anomaly, the team sought additional confirmation by sending an underwater drone equipped with cameras and sensors to the site. The footage it sent back only deepened the mystery. The structure, as it was now being referred to, was undeniably man-made in appearance. It had a smooth metallic surface that seemed unnaturally clean, as though it had been placed there intentionally, rather than shaped by natural forces. The drone's sensors picked up no signs of corrosion or natural wear, which was odd for something at that depth. It was as though the structure had been sealed from the natural elements of the ocean floor, preserving it in an almost pristine state. As the investigation continued, several hypotheses emerged. The most common theory among the researchers was that the structure might be the remnants of a shipwreck, or even an abandoned underwater installation. But which ship, and how could it have ended up so far from any known shipping lanes? Additionally, the absence of any identifiable wreckage, no remains of the vessel's hull, no signs of a crash, seemed to rule out a traditional shipwreck. This left many researchers wondering if the object might be something else entirely, perhaps an experimental military structure, or even an ancient relic of a civilization that had once lived along the coast, but left no other trace. Around the structure, the seabed revealed nothing that suggested human interference. There were no tools, no scattered objects, and no further evidence that would suggest any kind of shipwreck or installation. Even more perplexing was the lack of any biological growth on the surface of the object. Typically, underwater structures quickly become encrusted with marine life such as coral or barnacles. Yet this structure, despite its apparent age, remained remarkably free of such growths. Some theorized that the metal composition of the structure might have had some kind of antibacterial or antifungal properties, but this was purely speculative. As the research team considered their next steps, they began to dig deeper into the history of the region. In 2016, there were no known records of military or industrial activity in this particular area of the Indian Ocean that could explain such a massive and strange structure. It was clear that any potential answers would have to come from further investigation. The team prepared for a series of deep dives, hoping that closer inspection would shed light on the mystery. However, even as the submersible descended toward the structure, a growing sense of unease took hold. It felt as though they were about to uncover something beyond their understanding, something that might alter their perceptions of what was possible in the deep ocean. As the submersible's robotic arms scraped away at the layers of sediment, new details started to emerge. The object appeared to be hollow in certain sections, with parts of it crumbling as the researchers carefully removed the surrounding debris. The more they uncovered, the more questions piled up. Was this a man-made object, or had some unknown natural force created it? Some researchers speculated that it could be an underwater platform used for oil drilling or scientific research, but it was hard to reconcile this theory with the unusual precision of its design and the lack of any identifiable markings. Then, in a breakthrough moment, the submersible's cameras revealed what appeared to be faint symbols etched into the surface of the structure. They were not immediately recognizable, and no one on the research team could make sense of them. The symbols seemed ancient, worn by time, but still visible enough to suggest that they had been deliberately carved. This discovery only fueled the speculation that the object could be much older than anyone had anticipated. Was it an ancient artifact, perhaps the remains of a long-forgotten culture that existed long before modern history? Or was it something more recent, a forgotten relic of an undiscovered military or industrial project? The structure remained largely unexplored as the team continually faced obstacles in their efforts to study it. The deeper they went, the more complicated the investigation became. Each dive uncovered new details, but also presented new challenges. The remote location of the site, coupled with the difficulties in working at such depths, meant that the full extent of the structure could never be properly documented. In 2017, an attempt to bring pieces of the object to the surface for closer analysis was thwarted by unforeseen technical failures in the submersible equipment. The structure, as well as any answers it might have offered, remained firmly anchored to the ocean floor out of reach. As the years went on, the sunken metal structure remained an enigma. Despite repeated attempts by different research teams, no significant new information was uncovered. Some suggested that it might be a remnant of a lost maritime culture, while others pointed to the possibility of a more modern explanation, such as a military structure or a secret project gone unnoticed by the public eye. Whatever it was, the object had not given up its secrets. As the Indian Ocean continues to hide its mysteries, the sunken structure lies at the bottom of the sea, waiting for the next team to uncover its story. The Mariana Trench Unidentified Shadow, 2012. In 2012, the Mariana Trench, the farthest reaching part of the world's oceans, became the site of an unsettling discovery. The trench, which plunges nearly 11 kilometers below the surface, has long been a place of mystery, where light scarcely reaches, and life is adapted to survive under extreme conditions. A routine expedition by a team of oceanographers aboard a submersible aimed to capture new footage of the trench's mysterious inhabitants. Instead, they recorded something that left even the most seasoned researchers shaken. A large, shadowy figure moving along the ocean floor at a depth where few creatures, if any, were expected to dwell. The team was conducting a standard survey of the trench's deep-sea ecosystem, using sonar and high-definition cameras to document marine life and geological formations. As the submersible descended into the abyss, the usual sights appeared: strange bioluminescent organisms, eerie rock formations, and the faint outlines of the trench's walls. But then, the sonar picked up a blip, an anomalous reading that stood out among the usual background noise. At first, the crew thought it was an error, a glitch in the equipment, but when the sonar image cleared, they saw something far more perplexing: a massive shape moving across the seabed, casting a large, distinct shadow. The object was not identifiable. It was larger than any known creature in the trench, its outline too defined and its movement too deliberate to be mistaken for natural geological features or drifting sediment. The shadow shifted across the floor in a way that seemed too fluid and purposeful. For a moment, the researchers thought it might be a giant squid or some other deep-sea creature, but the shape was unlike any of the known species that had been documented in the region. The footage they captured seemed to show the shadow expanding and contracting, almost as though it were alive, responding to the submersible's approach. Repeated attempts to get closer and capture more detailed images were thwarted, as the shadow remained elusive. Whenever the submersible moved closer, the figure retreated further into the trench's deeper, darker regions, where visibility was almost zero. The crew attempted to track its movements using sonar, but as they moved in one direction, the shadow would shift, always staying just out of direct view. It was as if it knew they were coming. This behaviour, combined with the size of the shadow, suggested something far more elusive than anything the researchers had encountered before. When the team compared their discoveries to historical records of the trench, the mystery only deepened. The Mariana Trench, despite its vastness, has been the subject of numerous scientific studies, and while new species are frequently discovered, no creature recorded there has been anything close to the size of the shadow. Researchers began to wonder, could this be an undiscovered species, one that had managed to evade detection for centuries, or was it something more extraordinary, something entirely unknown to modern science? As the team reviewed the footage, they noticed something even stranger. The shadow seemed to exhibit an almost unnatural consistency in its movements. Unlike creatures that drift with the currents or move erratically, this figure moved with a clear purpose, navigating the trench with uncanny precision. It never wavered or seemed to get lost in the darkness, despite the trench's vast and hostile environment. The more they studied the footage, the more the figure appeared to be searching for something. It had the air of an entity that was fully aware of its surroundings, aware of the submersible's presence. Theories began to emerge as the team grappled with the implications of their discovery. Some suggested that the shadow could be a previously unknown species, one that had adapted to the extreme conditions of the trench. Perhaps it was a giant cephalopod, or an even more bizarre life form that had evolved in the depths where few humans could go. Others proposed that it might not be a creature at all, but rather some form of geological anomaly, a trick of light and shadow that distorted the perception of what they were seeing. But despite all their expertise, none of the team members could explain the precision of the movements and the sheer size of the figure. As the submersible continued its investigation, the object became more elusive, almost taunting the crew with its mysterious behaviour. It was as if it were toying with them, leading them deeper into the trench, only to retreat further with each attempt to get closer. The deeper the submersible ventured, the more disorienting the experience became. The darkness in the trench was impenetrable, and the sense of isolation was palpable. The only thing that kept the researchers grounded was the presence of their instruments, which, despite the strange occurrences, seemed to function normally, except for the sonar readings that were now becoming increasingly erratic. They would detect the shadow, but each time the submersible closed in, the object was gone. As weeks passed, word of the mysterious shadow spread throughout the scientific community, but there was little concrete evidence to show. The team had managed to document some sonar readings and low-resolution footage, but nothing definitive. More expeditions were planned, and the search for answers continued. Some speculated that the object might be a remnant of a past exploration, a forgotten military or scientific installation that had been lost to time. Others theorized that it could be the result of some natural process, a yet-to-be-understood phenomenon occurring deep in the Earth's crust. But the truth remained elusive. In the years that followed, no conclusive findings emerged. The shadow in the Mariana Trench remained a subject of debate and wonder, a reminder that there are still corners of our planet that defy explanation. Despite numerous attempts to return to the site, the object was never seen again. The anomaly that had once captured the attention of the scientific community faded into the depths of the ocean, taking with it any certainty about what had been found, and so the trench holds its secrets, perhaps forever. The shadow that once lurked within its depths, just out of reach, has become a symbol of the ocean's enduring mystery, the unexplained creature in the Gulf of Mexico, 2017. The Gulf of Mexico is often associated with warm waters, fishing grounds, and oil platforms, but in 2017 it became the stage for one of the most puzzling marine encounters of recent years. While most mysteries of the deep are tied to faraway trenches or remote oceans, this one unfolded much closer to familiar shores. What unfolded was recorded in high detail, yet what exactly was captured continues to spark debate. The event occurred during a research mission supported by NOAA's Okeanos Explorer program. The expedition was tasked with exploring deep-sea habitats in the Gulf, focusing on ecological diversity and geological features. Scientists aboard the vessel deployed a remotely operated vehicle to document life at depths that ordinary divers could not reach. What they expected to find were corals, crustaceans, and perhaps rarely seen fish. Instead, their cameras transmitted something that no one on board could identify. As the ROV's lights cut through the darkness, the first signs of the anomaly appeared. At first glance, it looked like a long, twisting body moving in slow, deliberate motions. Its form stretched across the frame in a way that defied easy categorization. The researchers thought it might be a type of deep-sea jellyfish, but the way it shifted and coiled did not match the behavior of known gelatinous organisms. The creature appeared both fluid and structured at the same time, giving the impression of a being caught between two biological categories. The footage revealed details that only deepened the mystery. The body seemed almost translucent, yet there were moments where it looked as though solid sections ran along its length. Its movements were not erratic. Instead, they seemed purposeful, as though it were aware of the ROV's presence. Each slow turn and bend made it appear alive in a way that unsettled even the most experienced scientists watching the live feed. What made the sight more unsettling was its sheer size. Judging from the scale of the frame, the creature appeared far larger than most deep-sea animals typically seen in the Gulf. Once the clip was shared beyond the research vessel, debates quickly surfaced. Some experts suggested it was a siphonophore, a colonial organism related to jellyfish that can reach extraordinary lengths. Others argued that it might be a rarely documented type of deep-sea invertebrate, one that simply had not been observed with such clarity before. Yet the structure of the body, with its unusual mix of solid and fluid qualities, made those explanations feel incomplete. Viewers pointed out that siphonophores usually show a more uniform appearance, while Theoneng looked uneven, almost as if it was something entirely separate from known classifications. The researchers involved in the mission avoided drawing quick conclusions. They stressed that the footage needed further analysis before any claims could be made. This cautious approach only fueled public speculation. To many who saw the video, the creature did not resemble anything from established marine biology. Online discussions flourished, with theories ranging from a mutated species to the possibility of a completely new form of life dwelling in the Gulf's hidden depths. The Gulf of Mexico, though not as deep as the Pacific trenches, contains complex ecosystems shaped by currents, underwater ridges, and nutrient-rich waters. Its environment has produced unique marine creatures before, and new species are still being catalogued regularly. However, the 2017 encounter stood out because of the clarity of the video and the lack of a definitive identification. This was not a blurry glimpse or a sonar echo, it was a direct recording, leaving little room to dismiss it as a trick of light or malfunctioning equipment. As scientists revisited the footage, they noted how the creature's body interacted with the surrounding water. Unlike drifting organisms that follow the currents, this one seemed to maintain control of its movements. It twisted, curled, and adjusted its form as though it had muscle or structure guiding its shape. At times, it almost resembled a ribbon spiraling through the water, yet the scale and detail made the comparison inadequate. Each motion carried weight, suggesting a complex anatomy hidden beneath its strange appearance. The unanswered questions surrounding the sighting highlight how little is truly known about the ocean, even in regions not far from land. The Gulf of Mexico has been studied for centuries, yet vast sections of it remain poorly explored. The 2017 recording was a reminder that unexplained phenomena are not limited to isolated trenches or polar seas. Even near areas of heavy human activity, the deep ocean can still produce revelations that resist easy answers. To this day, the footage of the Gulf of Mexico creature is revisited by marine enthusiasts and researchers alike. For some, it represents a likely encounter with a known but seldom seen organism. For others, it symbolizes the possibility of an undiscovered species dwelling in the Gulf's waters. Until more evidence emerges, the identity of the being remains unsettled. The ROV's cameras eventually drifted away, leaving the figure behind in the vast black water, where its presence lingers in memory more than in science. The Pacific Whistle Sound, 1999. Long stretches of the Pacific are marked by silence, broken only by the steady rhythm of waves and the distant calls of marine life. Yet, in 1999, hydrophones listening deep below the surface recorded a sound that disrupted this quiet with startling clarity. It was high-pitched, drawn out, and unlike the low rumbles or steady tones usually captured in oceanic monitoring, the sound earned an informal name among researchers, the whistle. The strange signal was first noticed by acoustic equipment placed in the Eastern Pacific. These underwater microphones were part of a long-term project run by NOAA, designed to monitor submarine volcanic activity, whale migration, and seismic events across the ocean floor. For scientists used to sorting through an ocean of familiar noises, the sudden burst of a clear, piercing tone came as an unwelcome puzzle. Nothing in the immediate area seemed capable of creating such a sound, yet the recording left no doubt that something had. Unlike the famous bloop detected 2 years earlier, the whistle had a sharper, more tonal quality. Where the bloop stretched at ultra-low frequencies, the whistle cut upward in pitch, rising quickly before fading into silence. Its clarity was striking, as though it had been produced by an instrument rather than a chaotic natural process. This quality made the sound stand out all the more because it did not match the usual patterns of geological or biological origins. The possibility of whale calls was one of the first explanations considered. Baleen whales are known to produce a wide variety of vocalizations, some of which can carry across thousands of miles. But acoustic experts noticed key differences. The pitch and structure of the whistle did not align with the signature calls of blue whales, fin whales, or humpbacks, all of which were documented in the region. No known species produced a sound that rose so quickly in frequency with such sharp precision. Another potential source explored was volcanic activity. Submarine eruptions and shifting magma chambers often create unique noises, some resembling groans or booms. Yet the whistle lacked the chaotic bursts associated with eruptions or the steady hums linked to geothermal vents. It was clean, distinct and singular, without the accompanying rumble or echo that would suggest geological movement. In short, the sound seemed too refined for a volcanic event. Attention then turned to mechanical sources. By the late 1990s, the Pacific was heavily trafficked by ships, submarines and industrial equipment. Could the whistle have been the byproduct of an engine, a propeller or some form of sonar? Analysts compared the signal to known vessel sounds, but no match was found. Human-made noises typically carry identifiable rhythms or patterns, while this sound appeared isolated, with no background mechanical traces. It was as if it had emerged from a void and then disappeared without leaving a trail. The mystery deepened when researchers attempted to trace its origin. Hydrophone arrays are capable of triangulating where a sound originates, but in this case, the results were vague. The whistle seemed to emerge from an area of open ocean far from known seismic zones or heavy shipping lanes. Without a clear point of origin, the sound became even harder to categorize. At the time, networks of underwater microphones were being improved, yet the Pacific remained only partly mapped by acoustic stations. Signals could sometimes be picked up strongly in one area while vanishing in another, leaving scientists with incomplete paths to follow. This lack of overlap made it difficult to compare the whistle to known sounds, and it also meant that other unusual noises may have passed unnoticed in the vastness of the ocean. Public release of the recording sparked curiosity well beyond scientific circles. Enthusiasts of marine mysteries compared it to earlier unexplained sounds, arguing that it might represent communication from a species not yet discovered. Others speculated that the signal was a rare event tied to deep-sea conditions still poorly understood. Unlike blurry photographs or fleeting sightings, the whistle was tangible, archived, and available for anyone to listen to, which gave it a peculiar weight in the realm of ocean enigmas. For all its intrigue, the recording captured only a few fleeting seconds. Scientists noted that a longer sample would have offered more data about its frequency shifts and potential harmonics, yet the brevity of the event also made it unique. Natural sources often repeat or linger, while the whistle came once and did not return. This fleeting nature made it almost impossible to study further, leaving researchers with more questions than answers. Years later, NOAA and outside researchers returned to the whistle recording, applying new methods for analysing acoustic signatures. Databases of whale songs, seismic events, and machine-made disturbances were all compared against it, yet none showed a convincing match. Even with better tools, the recording resisted explanation, reinforcing the puzzle rather than solving it. Over time, some came to view the whistle as part of a growing list of unexplained oceanic noises, sounds that resist classification despite decades of monitoring. The ocean remains filled with unknowns, and each unexplained recording points to gaps in our understanding of life and activity below the surface. Whether the whistle was biological, geological, mechanical, or something entirely different, its clear, unrepeatable tone continues to hold its place in the catalogue of mysteries. The sound still lingers in digital archives, its sharp rise and fading pitch as striking today as it was in 1999, a reminder that the ocean sometimes speaks in voices that defy recognition. The sperm whale skeletons. The sea has long been a final resting place for whales, but the discovery of multiple skeletons lying deep in clustered formations has puzzled scientists. Instead of the scattered remains usually left behind after a whale dies and sinks, these bones appeared almost arranged, as though drawn to the same place by forces still poorly understood. The sight raised questions about whether the ocean floor might hold hidden patterns of death, migration, or something even more elusive. Whaleful research has revealed that many carcasses become vibrant centres of marine activity. When a whale's body settles on the seabed, it can feed entire ecosystems for decades, drawing in crabs, worms, fish, and even bacteria that thrive on its oils. Yet in the case of the unusual skeleton groups, there was no single recent carcass at the centre. Instead, several skeletons of sperm whales were found resting side by side, their bones cleaned and stripped of tissue, forming a silent graveyard without a clear cause. The arrangement of the remains made the mystery more striking. Some skulls faced the same direction, while others seemed half buried in the sediment, as if they had been placed rather than left by chance. Marine biologists found it unusual because ocean currents, scavengers, and the sheer size of these animals should normally scatter the bones widely across the seabed. That they remained together hinted at an unknown process at work. Historical accounts of whaling revealed little help in solving the enigma. Ships of the 19th century hunted sperm whales across oceans, but when carcasses were abandoned, they rarely sank intact near one another. Most floated for days or were stripped by crews before being left adrift. This made it unlikely that old whaling grounds could explain the deep skeletal clusters, particularly since the finds were far from traditional hunting routes. Another explanation considered was mass stranding at sea. On shore, pods of whales sometimes beach themselves together, drawn by strong social bonds or confused by shallow coastal geography. If something similar happened in deeper waters, it could have left several bodies to descend into the same trench or canyon. However, mass offshore strandings have never been documented, and the evidence did not show signs of sudden trauma that such an event might cause. Geological features may also play a role. Submarine canyons and depressions can act as natural traps, where carcasses drifting in currents eventually settle. In such places, remains might gather over centuries, slowly building graveyards. Still, scientists pointed out that not all canyons showed this effect, and the unusual concentration of sperm whale skeletons seemed too specific to be explained only by topography. Deep-sea exploration vehicles provided clearer views of the bones and the surrounding environment. Cameras recorded how the skeletons supported communities of specialized organisms that depended on whale remains to survive. Giant isopods crawled over ribcages, while mats of bacteria coated vertebrae in pale layers. Yet these ecological details, though fascinating, offered no direct answer to why so many sperm whales had ended up together in the first place. Chemical analysis of the bones revealed age differences. Some skeletons had been resting for decades, their surfaces worn and eroded, while others were relatively fresh, still holding traces of oils. This meant the graveyards had not formed from a single event, but rather through repeated deposits over time. The pattern of returns to the same place suggested that whatever was guiding these whales might still be at work today. Speculation turned toward navigation. Sperm whales are known for their long migrations and their use of echolocation to travel in the dark. If seafloor features disrupted their signals, entire pods could veer off course. Over generations, this could have led multiple groups into the same area, but they perished and sank together. Still, direct evidence for such disorientation was lacking, leaving the idea unproven. Some scientists considered food sources as a factor. Sperm whales dive for squid at great depths, often thousands of meters below the surface. If a particular trench offered a rich hunting ground, the animals might have gathered there frequently. Dying in the same feeding zone would naturally concentrate their skeletons over centuries. However, this explanation raised another question. Why did other whale species not leave behind similar graveyards in those same places? The cultural role of sperm whales also entered discussion. These animals are highly social and often travel in tight-knit groups led by females. It is possible that the strong bonds within pods meant that when one whale became weak or sick, companions lingered nearby. If several died in close succession, their carcasses would fall together. While moving, such behaviours are well observed, but the link to clustered skeletons in deep trenches remains speculative. Technological advances brought new efforts to map and monitor these graveyards. Using remotely operated vehicles, marine scientists began documenting each bone site in detail, measuring sizes, orientations, and biological growths. This cataloguing built a clearer picture of how widespread the phenomenon might be. So far, the unusual clustering has appeared in multiple oceans, suggesting that it is not a single isolated case. Even with more evidence, no consensus has been reached. Each hypothesis explains part of the puzzle but leaves gaps. Mass deaths at sea remain undocumented. Canyon traps cannot fully explain the consistency of clustering, and navigation errors are hard to prove without observing them directly. The mystery lingers, deepened by the fact that sperm whales themselves remain among the least understood of the great whales, spending much of their lives in inaccessible depths. Somewhere in the darkness of the seabed, the skeletons remain, keeping a secret that no one has yet uncovered. The lost U-boat of the Atlantic, W. The Atlantic Ocean has long held secrets from the war years, some of which only came to light decades later. Among the most puzzling stories is that of a German U-boat that disappeared without explanation during World War II, leaving behind only fragments of information and a trail of unanswered questions. What became of this vessel and its crew remains a point of fascination for historians and deep-sea researchers alike. During the war, German U-boats roamed the Atlantic, targeting Allied convoys and spreading fear across shipping lanes. They were notorious for their stealth and effectiveness, yet they were also vulnerable to attack. Many were sunk and their wrecks are known today, resting on the ocean floor. However, some submarines never returned to port and left no trace of their final moments, becoming the subject of maritime mysteries that endure to this day. In 1942, the Battle of the Atlantic reached a critical point. Convoys crossing from North America to Britain were under constant threat, and the German Navy deployed dozens of U-boats in coordinated wolf packs to increase their chances of success. Records from that time document the fate of many submarines, but not all. Certain U-boats simply stopped reporting, leaving no clear cause for their disappearance. Among the most debated cases is U-boat 550, which attacked an American tanker in April 1944, before being hunted down and sunk south of Nantucket. Its wreck was located decades later, and the story of its end was pieced together. Yet others remain absent from maritime charts. Submarines such as U disappeared during patrols, sparking theories that range from secret missions to mechanical failures. The lack of wreckage makes their loss especially haunting. Part of the mystery stems from wartime secrecy. German commanders often operated under strict orders, and detailed mission logs were sometimes destroyed to prevent information from falling into enemy hands. Allied forces also classified their records, and some files only became available many years later. This mixture of lost documents and hidden reports makes it difficult to reconstruct the events surrounding the vanishing U-boats. Ocean exploration has added new layers to the puzzle. In the 1990s and 2000s, deep-sea expeditions uncovered several missing wrecks, such as U-869 off the coast of New Jersey. The discovery corrected long-standing assumptions about where the submarine was lost, proving that official records were not always accurate. Each find raised the possibility that more U-boats remain undiscovered, concealed in the vastness of the Atlantic seabed. What complicates the story further is the range of unexplained signals and sonar contacts reported over the years. Naval vessels and research ships occasionally detected shapes resembling submarines at depths beyond what World War II U-boats were believed capable of reaching. In many cases, the contacts vanished before they could be investigated, leaving only speculation behind. Family members of lost crewmen have also played a role in keeping the memory of these submarines alive. For decades, relatives of missing sailors petitioned governments and historical groups to continue searching for the wrecks. Their efforts have brought attention to forgotten patrols and highlighted how little is truly known about the final days of certain U-boats. For them, the discovery of a wreck is not just a historical find, but also the closing of a personal chapter. Researchers who study these mysteries often note that the Atlantic is vast enough to hide countless wrecks. Its shifting currents, deep trenches, and unpredictable storms make exploration difficult. Even with modern technology, large areas remain unsurveyed. A single wreck could be hidden under layers of sediment or lodged against underwater cliffs, invisible to sonar until the right moment of discovery. One theory that continues to capture attention is the possibility of U-boats involved in clandestine missions toward the end of the war. Some reports suggest that submarines may have been sent on long voyages to deliver materials or personnel to distant locations, such as South America. If true, their disappearance far from expected patrol zones would explain why no trace has been found where official records place them. However, these claims remain controversial and are not supported by complete evidence. The Atlantic has also been the setting for unexplained encounters tied to U-boat lore. Divers exploring wrecks have reported unusual conditions around certain sites, from sudden drops in visibility to strange sounds echoing through the water. While these could be natural phenomena, they add to the sense of unease surrounding the stories of submarines that never returned. Maritime historians continue to pore over records, comparing German documents with Allied logs, hoping to identify inconsistencies that might reveal where the missing submarines lie. Each new archive release brings the chance of fresh insight, but it also underscores how much remains unresolved. The ocean holds the final answers, yet accessing them is an undertaking that requires time, funding, and luck. Even today, research vessels occasionally stumble upon unidentified wrecks while surveying the Atlantic seafloor. Some prove to be cargo ships or warships, but the hope always lingers that one might be a missing U-boat. Each discovery renews the question of how many more are still unaccounted for, and whether the ocean is deliberately keeping their stories hidden. As decades pass, the line between documented history and unanswered mystery only grows sharper. Every known wreck helps build a clearer picture of the war beneath the waves, yet the unknown U-boats remain outside that framework, suspended in speculation. They represent not just the loss of vessels, but also the erasure of moments in history that may never be fully reconstructed. Lost within the Great Atlantic, the submarine waits in silence, its steel shell intact, its crew's destiny forgotten, until the search brings it to light. The Caribbean Phantom Reef. Maps of the Caribbean are often detailed with reefs, shoals, and tiny islands marked for the safety of sailors. Yet not every feature recorded on nautical charts corresponds to something that can be found in the water. Among these puzzling entries is a site that mariners came to call the Phantom Reef, a place that appeared on maps but seemed to vanish when vessels searched for it. Its uncertain existence left navigators cautious, wondering whether it was a mistake, a hidden danger, or something else entirely. Centuries of navigation in the Caribbean produced numerous reports of reefs that were seen once and then never again. Sailors crossing routes between the Bahamas, Jamaica, and Cuba often described patches of rough water or unusual swells, leading cartographers to mark possible obstructions. The Phantom Reef stood out because of the number of times it was charted and erased, an uncertainty that made its mystery persist longer than most. Some of the earliest mentions date back to the 19th century, when British naval expeditions compiled surveys of the region. They noted an unverified reef east of the Yucatan Channel, warning ships to avoid the area until more could be learned. For navigators relying only on compasses and the stars, even an unconfirmed hazard had to be treated as real. Ships often adjusted their courses, losing time and risking storms simply to avoid sailing too close. Later, as hydrographic surveys grew more advanced, researchers attempted to locate the site with greater precision. Expeditions in the early 1900s searched the reported coordinates, but came back empty-handed. These negative results did not erase the concern, however, because sailors continued to speak of strange water movements in the same stretch of ocean. It was easier to believe that the reef was hard to find than to dismiss the warnings completely. Part of the confusion came from the complexity of the Caribbean itself. Strong currents, seasonal storms, and constantly shifting sands mean that the seafloor never stays the same. A shallow rise could easily appear dangerous under certain lighting or tidal conditions, tricking sailors into believing they had seen rock or coral. The Phantom Reef may have been one of these mirages, magnified by repetition across generations of navigators. Explanations aside, there were still instances that sustained the legend. In 1939, a merchant ship recorded hitting heavy resistance in waters close to where the Phantom Reef was marked. The vessel did not run aground, but reported scraping noises and a sudden slowing of speed, as though passing over something solid. No reef was confirmed after, but the incident reinforced the fear that something unseen waited below. The outbreak of World War II shifted attention away from chart corrections, yet naval vessels still carried maps that displayed the Phantom Reef. Commanders gave strict instructions to steer clear of the area, preferring to lose hours of travel than risk damage to a submarine or destroyer. Even if it was only a rumour, the possibility of a reef hidden beneath the waves was considered too dangerous to ignore during wartime. By the mid-20th century, aerial photography and sonar promised to answer the question. Planes flying over the Caribbean provided sweeping views of the sea surface, while ships equipped with echo-sounding technology scanned the depths. Many supposed reefs disappeared from the charts during this period as surveys proved them false. Yet the phantom reef's status lingered in uncertainty because it was not formally disproved. Hydrographic offices gradually began removing it from updated maps, though not all nations acted at the same pace. Older charts, still in circulation, continued to show the mark, and in isolated harbours sailors warned each other of its presence. The blend of outdated records and fresh silence gave the phantom reef a half-real, half-imagined quality that only deepened its aura of mystery. Stories from local fishermen added another layer to the puzzle. In parts of the Caribbean, tales circulated of spots where the sea suddenly darkened, currents shifted, or schools of fish avoided wide patches of water. Some connected these accounts to the reef, suggesting it might rise and sink depending on the season. Though unproven, such folklore reflected the persistence of the idea that something unusual was hidden in the sea. Modern oceanographic missions, equipped with satellite mapping and deep-sea instruments, now cover wide areas of the Caribbean with precision unthinkable in earlier centuries. These projects have found countless features, from undersea mountains to sinkholes, but they have not produced evidence of the phantom reef. The absence of proof has led many experts to classify it as a cartographic ghost, a name given to features that appear only on paper. Yet even with advanced technology, not every corner of the seafloor has been examined. Narrow trenches, steep slopes, and shifting currents make certain zones challenging to scan. Some researchers point out that until the area is studied with complete coverage, there is still room for the possibility of a misidentified formation. For believers, this knowledge gap is enough to keep the legend alive. The phantom reef's endurance lies not only in charts and records, but also in the way it captures imagination. It symbolises the thin line between fact and perception at sea, where the difference between safety and danger often depended on a single observation. Sailors trusted what they thought they saw, and in doing so, they left behind a mystery that modern science still struggles to settle completely. Though no longer appearing on official maps, the phantom reef endures in records, maritime lore, and mysterious incidents that defy explanation. It is remembered less as a hazard and more as a symbol of how the ocean guards its secrets, revealing only what it chooses to. Whether the reef was ever real or not, the possibility of something still hiding beneath the Caribbean's waves lingers in silence, waiting to be found or forgotten. The Baltic Sea Anomaly, 2011. The northern waters of the Baltic Sea are known for their icy swells and unpredictable depths, but in the summer of 2011 a discovery beneath its surface sparked worldwide attention. A Swedish diving group called Ocean X, searching for shipwrecks and lost cargo, recorded something on sonar that did not match the usual patterns of rocks or sand. At first glance, it looked like a massive circular object resting on the seabed, unlike anything they had seen in their years of exploration. The sonar image showed the structure as nearly 60 meters wide with unusual straight lines and sharp angles. What caught attention was not just its size, but also the impression of design, with shapes resembling steps, grooves, and even what some described as a ramp leading down to its base. It looked far from a natural outcrop, and the resemblance to something manufactured immediately set it apart from other seafloor finds. When news of the discovery spread, speculation erupted across media outlets. Some suggested the anomaly was a sunken World War II anti-submarine device, while others compared it to science fiction, claiming it resembled the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. Though such comparisons drew public fascination, they also made scientific investigation more complicated, as sensational claims overshadowed measured analysis. The Ocean X team returned to the site several times to gather samples and footage, but the conditions proved challenging. The Baltic Sea is dark and cold at those depths, and the silty water often clouds the divers' visibility. Even with cameras and remote-operated vehicles, the images remained blurry, fueling debate rather than offering clarity. Each attempt to explain the anomaly seemed to open more questions. Samples brought up from the object included rocks that geologists later identified as granite, sandstone, and basalt. Some experts argued these were consistent with glacial deposits left during the Ice Age, when moving glaciers scraped and carried materials across northern Europe. To them, the circular form was the result of natural forces, smoothed over thousands of years by ice and water. Not everyone accepted that conclusion so easily. members of Ocean X pointed out that certain patterns looked too precise to be random. They noted what seemed to be right angles and straight ridges that reminded them of constructed walls or staircases. In their view, the anomaly could not be dismissed without further, more detailed investigation. Some divers involved in the expedition later reported that their electronic equipment behaved strangely near the site. Cameras and satellite phones occasionally failed, while compass readings drifted in odd directions. Ocean X suggested that the anomaly might be emitting unusual magnetic fields, a claim that drew immediate attention. Marine geologists, however, explained that iron-rich rocks on the seafloor can disrupt instruments in similar ways, especially in regions shaped by ancient glacial movement. The scientific community remained cautious, stressing the need for clearer evidence. Without comprehensive mapping or clearer video footage, the object's appearance could still be misleading. The human eye is prone to recognizing familiar shapes in vague or distorted images, a phenomenon known as pareidolia. To critics, the claims of artificial structures were less about the object itself and more about human interpretation of unclear data. Despite doubts, the mystery endured because of the object's unusual setting. The anomaly rests at the end of what appears to be a long, natural ridge stretching across the seabed. Some observers noted that the feature resembles a trail, as if the object had slid across the seafloor before stopping at its current position. This detail gave rise to theories that it was not just a geological formation, but something that had moved into place. Thermal scans and sonar surveys also seemed to complicate the picture. At times, parts of the structure appeared to reflect signals differently from the surrounding seabed, as though its material was not entirely uniform. To some, this hinted at a hidden layer of metal, or something distinctly artificial lying beneath the stone-like exterior. Oceanographers, however, cautioned that strong currents, layers of sediment, and even the angle of the instruments could all create misleading results that appear far more unusual than they truly are. As attention grew, Ocean X faced scrutiny for how they presented their findings. Some accused the team of exaggerating details to attract funding and publicity, while others praised them for drawing attention to an unexplored part of the Baltic. Regardless of motive, their discovery forced both scientists and the public to confront how little is known about the sea's hidden terrain. Even years later, the anomaly has not been fully studied with advanced equipment. Financial and logistical challenges, along with the difficulty of working in the Baltic's murky depths, have limited follow-up missions. Without high-resolution scans or extended research, the debate remains suspended between geological explanation and more unusual speculation. The story of the Baltic Sea anomaly also reflects a larger truth about the oceans. Much of the seafloor remains unmapped in detail. Vast stretches hide beneath cold water and sediment, holding formations and features that may surprise even seasoned researchers. Whether natural or artificial, the anomaly is a reminder of how quickly the unknown can surface in places thought to be familiar. Public fascination has never faded. Documentaries, online discussions, and news articles continue to revisit the anomaly, often framing it as a riddle awaiting resolution. For some, it represents the possibility of an ancient structure lost to time. For others, it is a perfect example of how human imagination shapes mystery. Resting on the floor of the Baltic to this day, the object remains untouched, its secrets hidden in layers of shadow and sediment. The Bloop, 1997. In the boundless stretch of the Pacific Ocean, where sound can travel for hundreds of miles, an unusual noise was detected in 1997, triggering one of the deep sea's greatest mysteries. The Bloop, as it came to be known, was an ultra-low frequency sound captured by hydrophones, deployed by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. The sound, which lasted for about 1 minute, was unlike anything scientists had ever heard before. It was powerful, deep, and eerie, and it originated from an area off the coast of Antarctica. For years, its exact source remained a topic of intense speculation, as the noise seemed to defy the known behaviour of marine creatures, leaving researchers with more questions than answers. The Bloop's initial detection wasn't planned as part of any specific investigation. NOAA had set up a series of listening devices known as hydrophones as part of a broader effort to monitor underwater sounds for the purposes of tracking oceanic life and submarines. The microphones, scattered across the oceans, were constantly recording ambient noise and any unusual events. On a summer day in 1997, however, a strange loud noise was captured by a hydrophone in the southern Pacific. It was immediately flagged as unusual by the team, as it didn't match the sound signatures of any known marine species, nor did it resemble the noise produced by underwater seismic activity or human-made objects. What made the bloop particularly perplexing was its scale. The sound was not only powerful, but also carried over a large area. Scientists were able to determine that the sound's origin was in the deep ocean, thousands of kilometers from the nearest coast. It wasn't like anything a whale or any other marine creature could produce. The volume and frequency suggested something far larger than a typical animal, raising the question of whether the sound was being produced by an unknown creature or phenomenon. The scientists involved initially struggled to explain how such a noise could come from the deep ocean, given that no known animal could generate such a powerful signal. Theories began to swirl about the cause of the bloop. At first, some scientists suggested it might have come from a massive marine animal, perhaps a previously unknown species that had yet to be documented. At the time, the blue whale, the largest animal on Earth, was known to produce loud sounds, but these were still far less intense than the bloop. Some speculated that the bloop could have been caused by a large marine mammal, an undiscovered deep-sea creature, or even a giant squid. But these ideas seemed implausible given the intensity of the sound and the absence of any similar sounds in marine biology. As time passed and no further evidence surfaced linking the bloop to any known species, other theories began to take shape. One possibility that emerged was the idea that the noise could have been caused by an icequake. The area in which the bloop was detected lies near Antarctica, a region known for its extreme conditions and vast ice sheets. Icequakes, caused by the movement of glaciers or the breaking off of large ice chunks, can produce sounds that travel long distances under the water. Some researchers propose that the bloop could have been the result of such an event, as the noise did share certain characteristics with the sounds produced by seismic activity. This explanation, while plausible, didn't entirely satisfy the scientific community. After all, the bloop was not a typical seismic noise. It was much more distinct, with a sharp tonal quality that seemed to differ from the usual rumblings caused by icequakes. Furthermore, the fact that the sound persisted for nearly a minute suggested that it was not a single, brief event, but something sustained. Still, icequakes became the leading theory for a time, with many experts accepting it as a possible cause. However, the mystery deepened further in the years that followed. The bloop had been recorded only once, and no similar sounds were detected in subsequent years, despite more extensive monitoring of the area. This fact raised further questions. If the noise had been caused by a natural event like an icequake, why hadn't it been repeated? And if it had been caused by a creature, why had such a sound never been heard again? The lack of a repeat event made the bloop even more elusive and difficult to explain. One theory that gained some traction was the idea that the bloop might have been linked to some sort of underwater volcanic or geothermal activity. The area where the sound was recorded sits near several tectonic plate boundaries and volcanic hotspots. Such areas are known for unusual underwater phenomena, including the release of gas from volcanic vents. This gas, when released in large quantities, could theoretically cause a sound like the bloop. While this idea seemed possible, it was never proven, and no direct link between volcanic activity and the sound was ever established. In 2012, after years of speculation, NOAA finally published a statement regarding the bloop. They concluded that the most likely explanation for the sound was indeed an icequake. The ice sheets in Antarctica, which are in constant motion, shift and crack due to pressure and temperature changes. When large blocks of ice break off, they create massive disturbances in the surrounding waters, producing deep, low-frequency sounds. These sounds can travel great distances, and it's possible that the bloop was simply an extreme case of this phenomenon. According to NOAA's analysis, the sound resembled the type of noise produced by an icequake, but they admitted that they could never fully rule out other explanations. Although there is an official explanation, the bloop still holds the public's imagination. For years, it has been associated with theories of giant undiscovered sea creatures or even alien activity, though these ideas are purely speculative. The bloop remains one of the most famous unexplained oceanic sounds in history, and its mysterious nature ensures that it continues to be a source of fascination for researchers and amateur theorists alike. The bloop's true origin remains elusive, leaving us to wonder what other sounds the ocean might be hiding. South Sandwich Islands Bioluminescence, 2006. Under a sky filled with stars, the waters around the South Sandwich Islands can appear almost completely lifeless. Few ships pass this remote volcanic chain in the South Atlantic, where storms and ice often make the sea too dangerous to cross. Yet in 2006, satellites monitoring the area captured something that defied expectations: an enormous glow spreading across the surface of the ocean, large enough to be seen from space. The light was not a fleeting shimmer. Data showed that the glow lingered for days, stretching over a region many kilometers wide. Scientists studying the images described it as a continuous band of bioluminescence, far brighter than any previously recorded. While bioluminescent displays are common among plankton, squid and some fish, the scale of this event was unprecedented. Nothing in existing records matched such an expansive field of glowing water. Closer examination of the satellite data revealed that the phenomenon was not uniform. Some areas within the glowing patch pulsed or dimmed in strange intervals, as if triggered by waves or movements beneath the surface. Researchers wondered whether massive schools of organisms were coordinating the light, or if currents were concentrating plankton in ways never before observed. The patterns were so regular that they reminded some scientists of signals rather than random dispersals. Efforts to confirm the glow at sea proved difficult. The islands lie thousands of kilometers from major ports, and conditions in the Southern Ocean often prevent research vessels from reaching them safely. By the time expeditions could be arranged, the display had already faded. This left scientists relying heavily on the satellite imagery, combined with scattered reports from distant fishing boats that described the water as eerily bright during the same period. The leading theory suggested that the glow came from trillions of bioluminescent plankton, specifically dinoflagellates, which can emit light when disturbed. Normally, such displays are confined to bays and smaller stretches of sea, where tides and currents trap dense populations. In this case, however, the area was open ocean with strong currents, making the density required for the glow hard to explain. The question remained: how could such an immense concentration have formed in one of the roughest parts of the ocean? Other researchers turned to the volcanic activity of the islands for answers. The South Sandwich Islands sit on the edge of a subduction zone, where the South American plate sinks beneath the small South Sandwich plate. Underwater eruptions are common in this region and can release nutrients into the water, feeding blooms of microscopic life. Some speculated that a volcanic event had seeded the ocean with just the right mix of elements to spark a vast plankton bloom, though direct evidence was lacking. Oceanographers also noted that the South Sandwich Trench, the deepest part of the Atlantic Ocean, lies close to the islands. The trench is more than 8 kilometers deep, and the mixing of deep, nutrient-rich waters with surface layers could provide another explanation for a massive bloom. Yet the exact timing and alignment of conditions required for such a spectacle made it an unlikely occurrence, which is why similar events have rarely, if ever, been observed. Beyond natural explanations, the sheer brightness raised questions. Some satellite images recorded levels of light that seemed too strong to be explained by plankton alone. Skeptics argued that instrument errors might have exaggerated the glow, though checks on the sensors found no faults. This left a lingering uncertainty about whether the phenomenon was fully biological, or if another, less understood factor was at work. For sailors who pass through bioluminescent waters, the experience can be unforgettable. Reports from fishing crews in the South Atlantic described the sea glowing so brightly that it lit up their decks, allowing them to work without lamps. Some even claimed that the water seemed to glow in response to their movement, as though the ocean itself was alive and reacting. These accounts, though anecdotal, added vivid detail to the mystery recorded by satellites. In the years since 2006, scientists have tried to find another event of similar scale, combing through satellite records and deploying sensors in comparable regions. Smaller bioluminescent patches have been found, particularly in the Indian Ocean, but nothing matches the size or intensity of the South Sandwich glow. Each new search returns only fragments, leaving the 2006 phenomenon as a singular puzzle in ocean science. Satellite oceanographers also noticed that the glow appeared to shift position slightly over several nights, moving eastward in a way that seemed to follow currents rather than staying fixed. This suggested that whatever created the light was not a static chemical spill or volcanic residue, but a living system drifting with the water. The drifting motion raised even more questions about how such a massive, coordinated display could maintain its brightness while being carried by strong and chaotic ocean flows. Marine biologists later pointed out that large-scale milky seas, a term for expansive glowing waters, have been recorded in sailor logs for centuries, mostly in the Indian Ocean. However, those accounts rarely had scientific confirmation, and the South Sandwich sighting was the first modern example caught so clearly by satellites in the South Atlantic. This connection placed the event within a larger pattern of rare but global occurrences, suggesting that such glowing seas may be part of an ancient ocean cycle that science is only beginning to notice. What lies behind the South Sandwich glow remains unanswered, leaving the ocean itself to guard the secret. The Bermuda Triangle Abyssal Sinkhole, 2011. The Bermuda Triangle has long been surrounded by tales of missing ships, vanished planes, and unexplained events. In 2011, researchers studying the seafloor near its southern edge uncovered something that added a new layer of mystery to the legend. Instead of a wreck or debris field, sonar images revealed what looked like a massive sinkhole carved deep into the abyssal plain. Its shape was so distinct and unusual that it immediately drew comparisons to collapsed caverns on land, but on a far greater scale. The sinkhole did not resemble ordinary geological formations commonly found in the Atlantic. Rather than an uneven depression caused by erosion, the structure was sharply defined, with steep vertical walls that plunged thousands of feet. This precision made it stand out, and scientists debated whether natural forces could have created such a feature without leaving signs of gradual collapse around its edges. What they found instead was a near-perfect circle, as if a vast section of the seafloor had dropped suddenly into the depths. When the discovery was first shared, the team described how their instruments registered unexpected anomalies around the site. Magnetic readings fluctuated wildly, and navigation systems briefly struggled to maintain accuracy. These disturbances lasted only near the sinkhole and returned to normal once the vessels moved away. For those who already linked the Bermuda Triangle to strange disappearances, this detail seemed to confirm that the site was not just another oceanic depression. Attempts to gather more detailed data faced challenges almost immediately. Remote-operated vehicles sent to the bottom encountered equipment malfunctions that cut their missions short. Cameras returned grainy images of walls layered with odd ridges, but the recordings often failed before reaching the deepest sections. Some researchers suggested that the technical failures might be tied to pressure or electrical interference, though others noted the coincidence of malfunctions occurring precisely when the sinkhole was being explored. Temperature sensors positioned within the depression produced odd results, according to the oceanographers who studied the site. At depths where the water should have been uniformly cold, there were sudden rises of several degrees, almost as if hidden vents were pushing warmer currents upward. No evidence of volcanic activity was found, yet the pattern suggested an unknown source of heat, or an interaction between deep water layers that remains poorly understood. The unusual geology raised many questions. On land, sinkholes form when underlying rock dissolves and collapses, but that process is rarely seen in deep ocean environments where different materials dominate the seabed. Without evidence of volcanic activity or tectonic shifts nearby, the existence of such a vast cavity remained puzzling. The walls appeared smoother than expected, leading some geologists to wonder if water flow over thousands of years could have eroded them, though no surrounding features supported that theory. Old reports added another layer of fascination. Some old naval logs referenced abrupt changes in sea depth in roughly the same region, with notes that compasses behaved erratically. While these mentions were vague and lacked precise coordinates, they gave the impression that sailors had been aware of unusual conditions in the area long before sonar technology confirmed the sinkhole. Whether coincidence or foresight, these records deepened speculation that the anomaly might play a role in the Bermuda Triangle's reputation. Attempts to study the formation more closely were made, yet worldwide interest gradually faded. Funding for extended exploration was difficult to secure, partly because no immediate scientific explanation promised practical applications. Expeditions shifted to other oceanic features that were easier to study and offered clearer geological value. The abyssal sinkhole, meanwhile, remained largely untouched, leaving only incomplete images and scattered data. Subtle gravitational anomalies picked up by satellite altimetry years later brought the sinkhole back into focus for researchers. These measurements hinted at either an unusually dense structure buried beneath the seabed or, conversely, an empty cavity larger than sonar had revealed. Both scenarios challenged accepted geological models of the area, leaving researchers without a clear explanation. For oceanographers, the unanswered questions are striking. Could it be a collapsed cavern formed when massive underground structures gave way? Might it have been caused by a sudden event such as a release of methane hydrates destabilizing the seafloor? Or was it the product of forces not yet understood in marine geology? Each possibility carries profound implications for how the ocean floor changes and interacts with the rest of the planet. The feature's location in the Bermuda Triangle ensures that speculation goes far beyond geology. Writers and theorists argue that the sinkhole could explain why vessels vanish, suggesting ships or planes caught above it might have been pulled downward by violent currents or trapped by sudden pressure shifts. Though no direct evidence supports these claims, the combination of a mysterious formation in a legendary region proved too compelling for the public imagination to ignore. No major expedition has ever returned to investigate the sinkhole in full detail. The depth, the technical risks, and the lack of immediate payoff keep it at the margins of oceanic research. Yet its presence remains on maps, a circular scar at the bottom of one of the world's most mysterious stretches of sea. What secrets lie hidden in that abyss remain unspoken as the ocean continues to guard them in silence. The Aleutian Trench, Ghostly Shape, 2015. The waters along the Aleutian Trench in the northern Pacific are some of the least explored on Earth, with steep slopes plunging into darkness and currents that shift with startling force. In 2015, a research expedition tasked with mapping this isolated region came across something that left its crew unsettled. Their instruments detected an outline on the seafloor that appeared to resemble the form of a giant figure stretched across the sediment, its contours eerily distinct against the otherwise barren landscape. The team used side-scan sonar to document the area, and the readings revealed a structure almost 60 meters long. Unlike the usual ridges and deposits formed by shifting tectonic plates, the pattern had smooth edges and symmetry that did not fit geological expectations. Some on board wondered if it could be the remains of a massive sea creature, fossilized or preserved in ways science could not yet explain, while others suspected an equipment malfunction. The debate grew sharper when repeat scans showed the same contours again, ruling out the chance of a single distorted reading. Exploring the site directly was no simple task. The trench lies in waters more than 6,000 meters deep, where pressure is intense enough to crush ordinary submersibles. Remotely operated vehicles were deployed, their cameras straining against the murk and shifting sediments. The images returned were blurred, with outlines that seemed to flicker between natural formations and something almost sculpted. At one moment, the figure resembled a spine with rib-like protrusions, and at another, it dissolved into shapeless ridges, leaving researchers questioning whether their minds were interpreting familiar patterns where none existed. A peculiar haze was noted by oceanographers reviewing the footage, appearing as though tiny particles were rising from the trench floor. Samples of the surrounding sediment suggested higher levels of metallic content than typical for that depth, raising questions about whether mineral deposits had accumulated into unusual shapes. Yet, the uniformity of the outline defied the randomness expected in natural sedimentary formations, creating even more uncertainty about its origin. Further complications arose when the anomaly seemed to shift slightly between scans taken weeks apart. Some suggested the currents along the trench were strong enough to alter the surrounding material, reshaping the silhouette over time. Others proposed that deep-sea organisms, unknown to science, might be disturbing the area, carving or altering the sediment in ways that mimicked a recognizable form. Each explanation raised more questions than it answered, and the mystery deepened with every pass of the sonar. Archaeologists invited to examine the data proposed an even more startling possibility. The outline could belong to an ancient structure, perhaps the remains of a ship or artifact that had slipped into the trench centuries ago. They pointed to the distinct linear features, which to them looked less like random deposits and more like deliberate construction. However, no records of lost vessels matched the scale or the unusual shape detected, leaving the theory unsupported. Without physical evidence, it remained speculation. In 2016, a follow-up expedition attempted to gather higher resolution scans using updated sonar arrays. These revealed even sharper lines, with some portions resembling circular impressions alongside the elongated form. The new images reignited the idea that the trench floor might be concealing a man-made object of unknown purpose. Still, skeptics emphasized the notorious tendency of sonar to create illusions, reminding the public that similar discoveries in other oceans had later been identified as ordinary rock formations. In spite of the skepticism, the anomaly continued to draw interest from marine biologists, geologists, and even defense researchers, who wondered if undiscovered natural processes could account for the shifting image. The Aleutian Trench is located in a geologically active zone where tectonic plates collide, and hydrothermal activity beneath the seafloor is known to produce unusual formations. Yet none of these processes fully accounted for the symmetry and scale seen in the data, leaving the ghostly shape a puzzle without a clear solution. During one survey, researchers noticed faint acoustic echoes that seemed to come from beneath the outline itself, as if the trench floor was hollow in certain areas. The readings hinted at pockets or chambers hidden under layers of sediment, but no probe was able to penetrate deep enough to confirm what lay below. This discovery complicated interpretations, suggesting that the formation might not be just a surface feature, but part of something larger concealed in the seafloor. The anomaly also appeared to attract unusual biological activity. Camera feeds showed dense gatherings of deep-sea amphipods and gelatinous creatures clustering near the edges of the shape, far more than in surrounding regions. Biologists were puzzled by the concentration of life in a place so inhospitable, raising the possibility that chemical or thermal processes tied to the anomaly were influencing the ecosystem in ways not yet understood. The most unsettling detail came from the testimony of several researchers who claimed that during one of the deep-sea drone missions, the live feed briefly showed a large, shadowy movement across the trench floor, near the outline itself. The object appeared to vanish into the gloom, too quick and indistinct to capture clearly, but vivid enough to unsettle those who witnessed it. No trace of the movement appeared on the saved recording, fueling speculation about technical glitches, or the possibility that something alive had been present. As discussions continued, the anomaly gained attention beyond scientific circles, inspiring comparisons to legends of lost civilizations, deep-sea monsters, and ghostly apparitions said to dwell in the trenches of the Pacific. While these interpretations stretched beyond evidence, they reflected the unease that the shape provoked. Even among cautious researchers, the sense lingered that the Aleutian Trench had revealed something that science was not yet ready to categorize. The true nature of the ghostly shape remains unknown, preserved in sonar recordings and fragments of film that fuel theories without offering proof. The Caribbean mysterious abyssal whirlpools. Long admired for its clear shallows and complex tides, the Caribbean has lately drawn attention for something far less understood: vast whirlpools swirling in its deep waters. These swirling formations were not the shallow eddies seen on the surface, but massive, slow-moving vortices that stretched thousands of feet downward, invisible to the human eye yet powerful enough to trap drifting matter for months at a time. Their presence was first confirmed through satellite data, when researchers noticed oddly repeating circular patterns across open stretches of water, far from any coastline. At first, the anomalies appeared as faint signatures, similar to shadows cast across the sea surface. Remote sensing instruments revealed water spiralling in broad gyres, some measuring over 100 miles wide. What disturbed researchers most was not their size, but their persistence. Unlike typical eddies, which fade within weeks, these whirlpools endured for nearly a year, moving westward like silent giants drifting through the Caribbean basin. The oceans seemed to be holding on to hidden mechanisms, forcing scientists to question whether the currents of this region had been underestimated all along. Satellite altimetry revealed that some whirlpools displaced the sea surface by several inches, a subtle but measurable bulge that betrayed their immense hidden force. Historical records gave the mystery deeper roots. Mariners had long spoken of sudden calm patches where ships appeared to stall, surrounded by seas that seemed to twist without breaking into waves. In the 18th century, Spanish galleons reported drifting for days in strange circular patterns near the Lesser Antilles. These accounts had often been dismissed as exaggerations or the product of superstition, yet the satellite-confirmed whirlpools bore uncanny similarities. It seemed that the legends were not inventions, but observations made without the benefit of modern instruments. Working alongside the European Space Agency, researchers tracked in 2013 the migration of deep-sea whirlpools swirling through the Caribbean. The spiralling structures acted like moving walls, trapping plankton and debris within their circular flow. The contents inside rotated endlessly, preserved as if caught in a glass jar. When researchers dispatched instruments to measure water properties, they found unusual conditions within the whirlpools, lower oxygen levels, cooler temperatures, and a sluggish circulation that contrasted sharply with the surrounding sea. Biologists noticed that the trapped life forms inside these underwater gyres seemed to behave differently from those in open waters. Certain plankton blooms flourished within the enclosed systems, suggesting that the whirlpools created miniature ecosystems cut off from the broader ocean. Fish schools sometimes lingered near the edges, drawn to the feeding opportunities provided by dense plankton. Yet, for unknown reasons, larger predators avoided entering, as if the spinning water marked a boundary beyond which they would not cross. This selective behaviour only deepened questions about the ecological role of these long-lived vortices. Local fishermen near Dominica spoke of long stretches where nets returned empty, as though the whirlpools had displaced schools of fish that would normally migrate through the area. When vessels passed near the areas mapped as whirlpool sites, strange patterns emerged in their navigation logs. Some captains reported inexplicable drifts of several nautical miles off course, despite calm surface waters. Instruments recorded subtle changes in current direction that did not match the surrounding charts. Mariners grew cautious about travelling too close, wary of being pulled into the sluggish but persistent spin that seemed to work invisibly beneath the waves. The sea looked calm, yet its hidden movement was capable of quietly shifting entire ships. Efforts to probe deeper into the whirlpools faced practical limits. Submersibles dispatched from research vessels found their paths disrupted by unpredictable currents when they approached the spinning zones. Though the whirlpools were not violent enough to tear equipment apart, the subtle pull altered navigation and drained energy supplies faster than expected. Instruments sent down by tether often returned damaged or missing sections, raising concerns about what forces might be at play in depths where direct observation was scarce. Scientists sought comparisons with other oceans. While eddies are common in the world's waters, the Caribbean formations appeared more enduring and more isolated. The South Atlantic occasionally produces long-lived gyres, but these Caribbean whirlpools were unique in their number and frequency, clustered along particular belts between the islands. The reasons for this concentration were unclear. Some proposed that deep seabed ridges and trenches shaped the currents in ways not yet mapped, while others suspected that exchanges between the Caribbean and Atlantic waters were creating conditions unlike anywhere else. Sediment samples collected near their paths contained layers of fine particles rarely found in open Caribbean waters, suggesting the whirlpools were stirring material from great depths. In 2016, new acoustic surveys hinted at something even stranger. The whirlpools seemed to reach far deeper than expected, extending well below the thermocline into abyssal zones. This contradicted earlier models, which had assumed such features would remain confined to the upper layers of the ocean. If true, it meant these vortices were not just surface or mid-level currents, but massive structures influencing the very floor of the sea. Such depth raised questions about what role they might play in transferring nutrients, heat, and even pollutants between layers of the Caribbean basin. As the data accumulated, debates grew over whether these whirlpools posed risks to navigation or coastal regions. Some argued that their presence could affect storm patterns, amplifying or weakening hurricanes as they passed overhead. Others warned that the gyres might transport pollutants and microplastics far more effectively than ordinary currents, turning them into hidden conveyors of contamination. Still, no consensus emerged, and the whirlpools remained poorly understood despite their scale and persistence. For those who studied them closely, the most unsettling aspect was the way these features seemed to act with a kind of regular rhythm. They appeared, travelled, and faded in patterns that hinted at cycles scientists could not fully map. The Caribbean, already a place of natural unpredictability, seemed to harbour hidden engines beneath its surface, slow and vast, with purposes still unclear. The Caribbean Sea, it seems, still keeps its largest movements veiled in silence. The Julia Sound, 1999. Hidden in its depths, the ocean carries voices that almost no one will ever hear. Low vibrations move silently beneath the waves, travelling for thousands of miles, bouncing off ridges and trenches. In March 1999, one of those voices made itself known. It was not a whale, nor the groan of ice, nor the rumble of an earthquake. It was something far stranger, something researchers would come to call simply Julia. The sound was first detected by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's hydrophone network. These underwater microphones had been placed across the Pacific Ocean to listen for submarine activity during the Cold War. By the late 1990s, they were being used to study natural ocean noises, from volcanic activity to marine life. That was when the team monitoring the network came across a sound that stood out immediately. Julia lasted for about 15 seconds, a strange, drawn-out wail that rose and fell in pitch. It was picked up across nearly the entire array, meaning it was powerful enough to carry across thousands of miles of deep water. Most natural ocean noises are local, often tied to seismic events or nearby animal activity. Julia was different. Its reach suggested a source of immense scale, one capable of cutting across a large section of the Pacific with a single burst of sound. Scientists immediately compared it to known categories of ocean noise. Whales, especially blue whales, are capable of producing deep calls that travel vast distances. Yet Julia's tone was too irregular and too strong to be mistaken for whale song. Undersea earthquakes and landslides were another possibility, but these usually produce sharp bursts or continuous rumbling, not a clean rising and falling note. Julia did not match. The idea of a volcanic source quickly entered the discussion. The Pacific is ringed with submarine volcanoes that erupt and collapse, releasing massive amounts of energy into the water. A distant eruption could have explained the sound's scale. However, no eruption large enough to match Julia's timing and intensity was ever recorded in March 1999. Without seismic confirmation, the volcanic explanation felt incomplete. There was also the unsettling possibility of ice. In the Southern Ocean, massive icebergs sometimes crack, scrape and overturn, creating booming noises underwater. These can mimic the power of seismic events and carry enormous distances. Julia, however, was recorded far north of Antarctica, making such an origin unlikely. To fit the data, an iceberg would have had to break away and drift into a region where no such activity was noted. Adding to the mystery, NOAA later released a sonogram of the sound, a visual representation of Julia's audio signature. To trained ears and eyes, the sonogram did not line up with the usual markers of whales, quakes, or ice. Its profile appeared smooth and hauntingly uniform, giving it an eerie quality. For some researchers, the image seemed to raise more questions than it answered, as though Julia belonged to an unknown category of sound entirely. As word spread, speculation spilled far beyond the scientific community. Some suggested that Julia could have been the noise of an undiscovered deep-sea creature, far larger than any whale. The ocean still hides countless species, and a sound of such scale fed into the idea of something massive moving unseen. While most scientists dismissed the possibility of a sea monster, the public imagination took hold of the thought. Another theory connected Julia to human activity. The 1990s was still a time of expanding submarine technology, and secret naval projects were always a possibility in the minds of conspiracy theorists. Could the sound have been a test gone wrong, or the collapse of an experimental vessel? Again, no evidence supported this, and no navy admitted to anything unusual. Still, the mystery left room for speculation. Within NOAA itself, the favoured theory eventually circled back to volcanic activity. The Pacific seafloor is riddled with little monitored ridges, and an eruption could have occurred in a remote region without being documented. Volcanic vents can produce low-frequency signals that resemble Julia's strange call. Even so, many within the team acknowledged that the fit was not perfect, and Julia's clarity still made it a singular event. Julia was not the first unexplained sound recorded by NOAA, nor would it be the last. In fact, the agency had been tracking odd signals since the 1960s, but few were as clear or as loud as this one. Later recordings, such as the Bloop in 1997, gained more public attention, but Julia remained a point of quiet fascination for those who studied ocean acoustics. It was the kind of anomaly that suggested the ocean still had secrets capable of evading human explanation. No hydrophone has detected Julia since that single event. No second event has ever matched its profile, leaving it as a singular entry in NOAA's database of mysterious sounds. For researchers, that makes it both frustrating and alluring. A repeat could help confirm its source, but in the absence of another occurrence, Julia remains a one-time enigma, frozen in a few seconds of audio tape. The absence of answers continues to fuel curiosity. In classrooms, Julia is often used as an example of how little we truly know about the deep sea. In popular culture, it has been folded into discussions of cryptids, lost civilizations, and even extraterrestrial contact. While these ideas stretch far beyond scientific evidence, they reflect a deep human need to make sense of what lies below the surface. The memory of hearing Julia on the hydrophones has stayed sharp for those who were there at the beginning. They describe a sound that felt almost alive, as though something unknown had stirred for a brief moment and then vanished again into silence. There is no consensus, only a thin sliver of sound captured by machines and replayed endlessly with no context. The Pacific is vast, covering more than 60 million square miles, and its depths are among the least explored regions on Earth. Julia emerged from that immensity, carrying with it the reminder that the ocean has stories to tell that remain out of reach. It is a reminder stitched into the hum of the deep, surfacing only rarely. One haunting sound in 1999 continues to echo in questions no one has been able to answer. The Kraken footage, 2012. Legends of monstrous sea creatures have filled stories for centuries, but in 2012, one such myth collided with science in a way that caught the world's attention. Far below the waves of the Pacific, cameras recorded something that many thought would never be captured alive: a giant squid moving in its natural environment. The images would later be called Kraken footage, borrowing from the Old Norse tales of shipwrecking beasts, though what appeared on screen was both real and mysterious. The sighting came from an expedition led by a team of Japanese researchers working with the Discovery Channel and NHK. Their mission was to capture high-quality video of Architeuthis ducks, the elusive giant squid that can reach lengths of over 40 feet. For years, marine scientists had found only dead specimens, usually washed ashore or pulled from fishing nets. A living giant squid had remained unseen, making it one of the ocean's most haunting riddles. Reaching this moment required years of trial and error. Earlier attempts had failed, as the species lives in the twilight zone of the ocean, where light barely penetrates and pressure crushes most equipment. Standard submersibles and bright lights scared away potential subjects, leaving only empty recordings of black water. To overcome this, the team designed specialized cameras with sensitive low-light technology and used lures that mimicked the flickering glow of deep-sea jellyfish. To reach the necessary depths without scaring potential subjects, the team also used a quiet submersible called the Triton 3300 thirds, which allowed them to stay close while minimizing noise and disturbance. On July 10, 2012, in waters near the Ogasawara Islands south of Japan, the gamble finally paid off. From a depth of around 2,000 feet, the camera caught the unmistakable outline of a giant squid approaching the lure. Its long arms stretched outward, shimmering silver in the artificial glow. For the first time, the animal's movements were preserved on film, not as a carcass, but as a living creature moving with power and grace. What startled many was how alien the squid appeared, even when seen clearly. Its huge, unblinking eyes reflected the light like dark glass, and its tentacles curled and uncurled with a precision that seemed almost mechanical. Unlike whales or sharks, which have long been documented in the wild, the giant squid seemed to exist on the edge of imagination, its recorded presence blurring the boundary between folklore and biology. The footage stunned the scientific world, yet it raised as many questions as it answered. Why do these creatures remain so difficult to encounter if they inhabit large portions of the deep ocean? Are they solitary wanderers, or do they live in hidden populations far beneath the reach of human technology? Even after one was filmed, researchers admitted that almost nothing is known about their behavior, diet beyond basics, or the true range of habitats. Some marine biologists speculated that the captured individual might not even represent the largest specimens. Historical reports have suggested even greater sizes, with sailors claiming encounters with squids stretching over 60 feet. Whether such giants exist is still unproven, but the 2012 footage reignited debates about the potential scale of undiscovered marine life. If one legendary animal had been verified, others might still lurk unobserved. The cultural response was immediate. Newspapers and television networks across the globe reported on the footage, often invoking the Kraken myth. For coastal communities with long histories of fishing lore, the video was almost a vindication of old sailors' tales once dismissed as exaggeration. The deep sea, it seemed, could indeed hide beings capable of sparking fear and awe in equal measure. In Norway and Greenland, sailors once described encounters with tentacled monsters large enough to capsize ships, and the 2012 images were quickly linked to those same accounts in popular discussions. At the same time, skeptics reminded the public that the footage did not prove the existence of monsters. What was seen was a giant squid, a known species, not an undiscovered beast. Yet the distinction mattered little to many viewers who'd grown up hearing about massive creatures pulling ships into the depths. To them, seeing the squid alive was the closest confirmation yet of legends that had drifted for centuries. For scientists on the expedition, the achievement also marked a breakthrough in research methods. The use of low-light cameras and bioluminescent mimicry opened new pathways for studying other hard-to-observe animals. The success suggested that the key to unlocking more mysteries of the deep might not be brute force exploration, but careful imitation of the ocean's own signals. Even so, not all questions were settled. Some who reviewed the video noted odd details in the squid's appearance. Its body shimmered with unusual brightness, leading to speculation that stress from the lure or surrounding conditions caused behaviour rarely seen. Others wondered if the squid had been injured before approaching the cameras, as parts of its arms appeared damaged. If so, the footage might not show a typical hunting scene, but rather a weakened animal drawn in by desperation. Some experts suggested that the shimmering effect might have been a defensive tactic, a way to confuse predators in the dim light of the deep sea. The Discovery Channel broadcast later that year brought the footage to a wide audience, framing it with dramatic narration and references to myth. While some criticised the sensational presentation, the choice reflected the undeniable connection between the giant squid and human imagination. The term Kraken footage stuck, not as a scientific label, but as a cultural shorthand for the way the deep sea still inspires fear and fascination. In the years since, further expeditions have tried to build on that moment. More giant squids have been filmed, though none with the same clarity or impact as the 2012 event. Each new recording adds small pieces of information about how the animals move and react, but the core mysteries remain intact. They still avoid humans with remarkable success, leaving only fleeting glimpses before retreating into darkness. For researchers, the 2012 video remains a turning point, proof that patience and innovation can bring even the most elusive creatures into view. For the public, it continues to resonate as a moment when an ancient myth seemed to surface, its shadow flickering on screens as if a ghost had been pulled from the depths. One brief appearance of a giant squid reminded the world that the line between story and reality is thinner than the ocean's surface might suggest.